Our main character Kim Sin has a rather unfortunate fate, as his life is filled with nothing but darkness. He never experienced what family love feels like. His mother passed away early, and his father was always drinking and gambling, never caring about his children. Even after he married her, she didn't care about him at all. Instead, she mocked and looked down on his background so much that he had to kneel and beg for a divorce. One day, his father borrowed 1,000,000 won from him to invest in cryptocurrency. Although he didn't trust his father much, he eventually decided to lend him the money. Unfortunately, before they could get rich, his father passed away in a traffic accident. One day, he casually checked his father's and his cryptocurrency investment app, and was surprised to find the account balance had risen to 250 billion. In just a moment, Kim Sin, once a poor guy at the bottom of society, suddenly becomes a billionaire with a huge fortune in his hands. Let's follow along to see how Kim Sin's new life unfolds. The story begins with a heartbreaking scene. A well-dressed young man kneels on the floor, crying miserably, begging, "Please, I'll rely on you in this state." "Divorce me," he said, bowing his head in front of his wife. The girl immediately accepted his request. "All right, divorce, I agree. Then in that case, what can you do for me?" she said while using her foot to lift his chin in a gesture of utter disdain. His eyes brimmed with tears, ready to fall. Though filled with deep resentment, he bit his lip tightly, not daring to utter a word. He recalled his hard life in the past. "I hated my father, a man who always reeked of alcohol, bringing liquor here, liquor. Every day, if he isn't drinking, he's gambling. The father not only neglects his kids but has never provided for their living expenses. Every time he comes home from work, he finds him completely drunk, muttering all day, saying, 'I told you to bring me the alcohol.' Even so, I still didn't cut ties with my father, because he is my only remaining relative. An evening at Samgyeopsal restaurant, he had to work tirelessly day and night as a waiter. 'Could I get another bottle of soju? Yes, I'll bring it right out. Could I have a wet towel? Yes, please wait a moment. The restroom, you go outside then head to the second floor of the building on the left. I do all kinds of part-time jobs because if I don't, it would be hard to make a living." Even though sometimes he feels extremely frustrated when customers ask or request something, he always responds calmly, "Yes, I'm coming right away." A customer hesitated and asked, "Excuse me, my son spilled some water. Could you get me something to clean it up?" He stood frozen when he saw the image of a father gently taking care of their son. "What is this, my boy? The water splashed all over my face." The boy laughed cheerfully in response. "But it's so much fun." He walked up and answered the father, "No problem. Let me wipe it for you, but sometimes I can't help feeling jealous of others." After a long day of work, he returned to his old house. As soon as he walked in, his drunken father spoke harshly, "Sinna, lend me 1,000,000 won." The guy gaped in shock at the huge sum, 1,000,000 won. "Do you know how big 1,000,000 won is?" He immediately said, "That's why I'm asking to borrow from you. I'll pay you back many times over." Lately, something called cryptocurrency has emerged, and everyone is buzzing that it will become the currency of the future, with the promise of making a lot of money. He was angry, bluntly expressing his opinion that the money earned through sweat and hard work is now far more important than that uncertain money. The father called out, "Sin." Then he held his hand tightly and began pleading, "Trust me, please, okay?" He bowed his head and said gloomily, "I know how awful I've been lately. All I do is get angry and act like a madman. So give your father this chance. This father wants to change." Sin's face remained cold as ice, showing no emotion in response to his father's words. He still tried to show his determination to make his son believe, "Please, just give your father one last chance." The thought suddenly popped into his mind again. I also knew, absolutely no lending. Can't trust dad anymore, but let's say, we can go back to normal. After much hesitation, he still chose to place a fragile bit of trust in his father. "I know now. I still want to believe in you one last time. I will lend you the money, Dad." After successfully convincing his son, he joyfully hugged him. "Thank you, Sin. Thank you for believing in me. From now on, we will become tycoons." However, not long after, before he could become a tycoon, he reunited with his wife in heaven. Sin stood bowing his head in front of his father's portrait. "The passing of my father was due to a traffic accident. I heard he slipped on a slippery road and passed away instantly. The sadness of losing a loved one, mixed with a strange feeling of being freed from chains. Now this house is missing another person, and the family meal now only has Kim Sin alone. I am lonely again." He sat there smiling aimlessly, thinking about how strange his life had been. Sin was eating while watching TV. Today's show seemed pretty interesting. "Hi everyone, I'm content creator Debak. Today, I've invited a remarkable young person who's achieved incredible success at such a young age." The shy young man sitting next to me introduced himself. "Hello everyone, I'm Laihu." Debak began asking questions to the guest. "May I ask what kind of work you do?" He honestly shared, "I work in the investment field." The guy, while chewing loudly, had to admit the talent of this young man, such incredible success, so young and already bought a house? Debak curiously asked, "What is your current net worth?" Kim Sin was startled and spat out his noodles in shock when he heard the amount of money Lai Hu had, which was about 40 billion kwon in Korean currency. Even the host couldn't help but marvel at such a large number, feeling quite envious. "So, where exactly did you invest?" Lai Hu didn't hesitate to share. "I think everyone might have heard about it once already. That is investing in Bitcoin." Kim Sin suddenly remembered something. Cryptocurrency. "Is this the cryptocurrency I invested in with Dad? Has it grown that much? How about we check it out?" He immediately opened the Ratbit app. Debak asked Lai Hu a fun question. "What if it wasn't just a year ago, but you had invested when cryptocurrency first appeared 6 years ago? How much would your money have grown?" He laughed and replied, "I also used to imagine that a lot. Back then I had no idea the price of cryptocurrency would rise like this. If I had invested 6 years ago, as you said." Kim Sin began feeling dizzy, lightheaded, with ringing in his ears, and sweat pouring down like rain. At least it will increase 2,500 times. All he could think about now was money, money, and more money. The catchphrase of those investing in cryptocurrencies is always hoping for it to go up, up. They all want their profits to increase manifold. After carefully checking the amount of cryptocurrency he had, Kim Sin still couldn't believe the number he saw, 250 billion. Kim Sin's current assets, as he sat there stunned like a fool, thinking it was all just a dream, and from this very moment, his life seemed to turn a new page. Kim Sin rode his bike through a big neighborhood. While pedaling, he thought, "I don't feel anything, even when the cold wind blows." "You were happy. Who could have imagined that I would end up with over 200 billion dong?" Suddenly he opened his dry eyes wide, thinking at home, "I am so worried about the stock market that I can't sit still. Every 1 or 2 minutes, tens of millions of dong fluctuate, so I can't take my eyes off it. If the price rises by 10 million won, I feel so happy I could dance. If it drops, I feel like the world is falling apart." Finally, yesterday it went up to 8 billion, an amount it would take me 40 years to save. But in a moment, if I sold it right away, I probably wouldn't have to worry about anything for the rest of my life. But is that the right decision, if I sell while the price is still rising? While cycling, he thought a lot. Quickly returning home, opening the door, Kim Sin calmed himself. "Stay cool. I am living a life dependent on house money. Even if the price drops a little, it is still a large amount of money, so I must not rush." Suddenly he looked out the closed window, his face unable to hide the anxiety and unease. Then he turned on the computer, mumbled to himself, and checked one last time. Looking at the computer screen, Kim Sin's face turned pale, mouth agape in shock. "Oh my God, just this morning, the amount was clearly 2.355 million. I just stepped out for some fresh air. And now it's 200 million. If converted to Korean won, it would have increased to 22 billion. Kim Sin was terrified by the massive numbers. Meanwhile, at a major hospital in the city, the hospital director scratched his head in confusion and asked, "How's the ophthalmology department in Busan doing?" Others responded, "They had decided to introduce the demo of the surgical equipment next week," he continued. "But recently, the performance on the Busan team hasn't been very good. Who will be in charge there during the demo?" One person spoke up. Previously it was assistant An Chang-jin, but suddenly something came up at his house, so he probably won't be able to go. People started asking, "So, who will replace him to go on that business trip?" At that moment, Kim Sin raised his hand and said, "Director, I'll go to Busan." He asked, "Assistant Kim, are you okay?" While thinking to himself, "Your eyes look tired." Kim replied, "I'm fine, but was thinking, I haven't had a good sleep over the weekend. Maybe a business trip will help clear my mind." The director said, "If Assistant Kim goes, I'll feel reassured, but we still need one more person." Just as he finished speaking, a voice replied, "Me. I will go with him." The speaker was Sue. Seeing her excitedly take on this task, he blushed. The director said, "Miss Sue." Others quickly raised their hands. "Director, I'll go too." "No, I'm the team leader, so I should be the one to go." He replied, "2 people are enough, so Assistant Kim and Sue, do your best." Kim Sin happily thought, "Going with Sue, huh?" On the highway, traffic was bustling. She drove while he said, "Thank you for giving me a ride." She said, "My car is still good. Last year I inherited the car my brother used to drive. He said to sell it cheap because I'm his little sister. It's been a long time since I went back to Busan. It's really fun. You're surprised. Your hometown is in Busan," Sue replied. "Yes, when I first joined the company, I used to go back often, but since I started practicing coffee and joined study groups, I've gone back less." He thought to himself, during her free time, Sue is so disciplined, so different from everyone else's world. Dreams and hopes, things like that, can only exist when people see a level of possibility or have a stable quality of life. I've never been attached to things that are unattainable. But ever since I acquired a huge fortune, I suddenly became curious. What kind of world does someone with as much money as me live in? When they arrived, the sun was setting. Two people stopped, bought 2 cans of drinks. He handed her one and said, "Hey, the doctors only go to Sue A, right?" "It must be tough for Sue A to be with me all the time," she replied. "Not at all. The seniors are very enthusiastic in guiding me." Her face looked like she had something to say but hesitated. Then she asked, "Sunbae, I wonder if you could go to the shopping mall with me." He was surprised. "Shopping mall?" Sue A blushed and explained, "I haven't been back to Busan for a while, so I took the chance to go shopping. There's something I want to tell you." Kim Sin thought the shopping mall might help clear his mind. Then he replied, "Sure, let's go." At the shopping mall, 2 people walked into a men's clothing section. He was surprised. "It's cheaper online. Why buy it at the mall?" Sue A suddenly said. "Senior, go check out the clothes." "I'll buy you a set," you ask. "Why are you buying clothes for me?" She blushed even more. "Well, I was going to ask you for a somewhat unreasonable favor, so just think of the clothes as a bribe." He said, "Just tell me what you need help with." She hesitated. "Well," he continued, "I can afford to buy clothes at places like this too. Just say it." Sue lowered her head, stammering, Can you pretend to be my boyfriend in front of my parents?" Kim Sin was shocked. "What boyfriend?" She explained, "I have a younger sister, and she already has a boyfriend, so my parents keep urging me to bring a boyfriend home to introduce." "Can I ask you that?" He blushed shyly. Then she arranged to meet her parents at an upscale restaurant. Aunt said, "Sue is smart but still very immature. She was so stubborn when she was little." "You must have had a hard time dating Sue A," she said shyly. "Mom." The aunt continued asking, "I heard you work at the same company as Sue A, and you replied, 'Yes, ma'am.' How did you get close to my daughter?" he asked. "Well, when Sue A first joined the company, I helped her with the work, so we gradually became close." She said, "I see. Eat more." He smiled. "Thank you, ma'am. Looking back, I met my ex-wife's family last spring." "Chaegwon and her family, you remember that meeting?" her father asked. "What do your parents do for a living?" You replied, "My parents passed away." He asked, "So did you grow up in an orphanage, or were you raised by your grandparents?" You answered, "No. When I went to university, my father was still alive." He continued, "So that's it. You live alone in an apartment. Didn't you inherit your parents' house? Did your siblings get any house?" "What? No house. But I heard the company's salary is high. The bonus isn't much?" "You know Chaegwon gave us money, hopefully after the wedding. Each month you can just give us 50, he replied. "Of course, that's the way it has to be. I will treat you both like my own parents," he said. "That's the way it should be." After getting married, I tried to treat them well, but it didn't go smoothly. Things are much better now compared to back then. Auntie saw that you were quiet for a while and asked, "Is the food not to your taste?" You replied, "No, it's really delicious." You keep thinking, I am someone who has been married before, assuming I didn't become wealthy, and if the value of money didn't support my self-esteem. Then, after the 4 finished their meal, 2 of them said, "We'll head home now. You 2 enjoy your date." He bowed his head. "Goodbye, sir. Goodbye, ma'am. Take care." The aunt whispered to Sue, "Sue, you don't have to come home tonight, okay?" Kim Sin stood watching the scene, wondering, "So can I play Sue's boyfriend?" She said, "Mom, Dad, come in quickly." She laughed and replied, "Look at you." "Kim, I think the first child being a girl would be better." She felt helpless. "Let it go, Mom." Kim Sin smiled, not knowing how to respond. In his mind, he imagined Sue holding his arm. "How are you today?" As long as Sue is happy, Kim Sin's current assets have risen to 310 billion. A moment later, at the beach, Sue bowed sincerely and said, "I'm truly sorry. I realized I had been shallow and made a big mistake." He quickly reached out to help her up, his face a little awkward, and asked, "Miss Sue, why did you suddenly do that?" She recalled his expression during the meal and replied, "I was watching your face the whole time. Maybe because of me, some unpleasant memories were stirred up in you. You hear that and are briefly surprised, thinking, is she concerned about the fact that I was married? Then you say, it's okay. It's not Sue's fault." He continued, "Your parents are really nice and the food is great, so you don't need to apologize." But she still silently exhaled and tucked her hair behind, saying, "Even so, I still feel guilty." He saw her like that and said, "Well, how about you show me around Hyundai? This is my first time in Busan." She asked back, "Hyundai, huh?" Then she paused for a moment and said, "Okay, I'll make a plan." She then turned her head and muttered to herself, "Should I go eat honey eel? No, I just ate, so he's probably still full. If only there was somewhere to rest halfway. That would be great." Seeing her like this, the person next to her raised a hand as if to stop her and said, Miss Sue. Seeing her remain silent, not hearing him call, he could only helplessly look at her and sigh. She's as stubborn as her mother says, right? Suddenly, as if she thought of something, she glanced to the side. Then she pointed in that direction and asked him, "Senior, is that okay? I'll lead the way." He looked in the direction she was pointing, confused, and asked, "Which one?" After seeing that, his face suddenly changed in disbelief as he asked, "Huh." According to Sue's direction, there was a fortune-telling tent. He said in surprise, "A fortune-telling shop?" At that moment, in the fortune-telling tent, the old woman's voice steadily echoed, "Your fortune is bright and good. She is talented and puts in a lot of effort. She receives much affection from those around her, and will encounter much luck in life." Sue, hearing that, immediately felt happy and asked, "Really?" The old lady continued, "But you once missed an opportunity." She was surprised and asked again, "What did I miss?" The woman replied, "Perhaps you already know. You can't seize luck if you lack courage and hesitate." Hearing this, she glanced at him and casually replied, "Oh." You quietly broke into a sweat, thinking to yourself, "Maybe I understand these words now." The old woman continued, "But don't worry, that luck will return and be even greater than before." She asked again, "Really?" The old woman replied, "It's very good luck, but it won't be as easy to get as before." You just sat there motionless, quietly observing. She's been saying nothing but nonsense. Clearly, fortune-telling can't be trusted. Sue suddenly turned to him and said, "Now it's your turn. You refuse. Fine, I won't watch." She kept persuading, "Since you're already here, why not take a look? You seem like a brave person." He replied, "I don't know. I'm not curious about anything." Sue did not ask anything else, she replied, "Yes, I have asked everything." Hearing this, the old fortune-teller's eyes showed a slight change. Then she spoke again. You're destined to starve." Her words left him completely stunned, his mind full of questions. She looked at him and continued, "You've been through a difficult and deprived childhood." Hearing this, he was surprised. How did she know? Then the old woman sighed again. "But someone with such great fortune, oh, I'm too jealous to say anything." He repeated in confusion, "Fortune?" The old woman said again, "Even if you just sit still, luck will find its way to you. However, let's say you travel around the world and gain a lot of experience. You will seize all the great luck. A night breeze blows in, making the tent's curtain flutter, while you still stare blankly at the old woman. She said, "Just live as you want, and whatever you do will succeed like now." You asked, "Good luck? Is it really that good?" "Then what about romance?" She replied, "Romance." He quietly thought, "A life of poverty and hardship used to be all too familiar to me. So I always lived in worry about money." You held out your hand. The old woman carefully examined it and said, a moment later, after watching, you pulled your hand back, feeling cheerful, thinking, "I don't know if what she said is true, but either way, it's good, so I'm happy." Then you turned to the old woman and said, "Thank you for your kind words. How much is it?" She immediately replied, 200,000 kwan. Hearing the price, he couldn't help but be startled, breaking out in a cold sweat, his face suddenly changing color, silently exclaiming, 200,000 kwan. 200,000 won is what I spend on clothes and travel expenses for the entire year, but I couldn't avoid paying, so reluctantly, I handed the money to the old lady. After leaving the fortune-telling shop, the two walked along the beach. Sue asked, "Do you want to try honey-braised eel?" Then she turned around, grabbed his arm, and continued, "The next stop is enjoying honey-braised eel at the Hyundai market. Since acquiring a massive fortune, I've always been concerned. If you have money, what can you do? Does having a lot of money really bring happiness?" Until now, the exact answer hasn't been found, but at this moment, he just stared blankly at the girl in front of him who was pulling his hand, then gave her a gentle smile and thought, "I'm starting to look forward to life ahead." In the night, under the dim light from the tall buildings, the waves kept crashing against the shore. 4 days and 3 nights in Busan ended like that, and I returned to Seoul. You nervously gripped the computer mouse tightly in your hand. His eyes showed a bit of panic as he sat in front of the computer in a room littered with discarded bottles, staring at the screen, mouth agape in shock, then silently cursed himself. Too dumb. If he had sold earlier, he wouldn't have lost 2 billion. A moment later, his face relaxed a little with admiration. I was really wise to be patient. In just an hour it went up to 3 billion. Oh, this time it's 4 billion. Then he let out a long sigh. Sin sat there holding his head in exhaustion, thinking, after coming back from the business trip, I've just been watching the kid constantly. Looking after him all week has drained me. He squinted at the situation ahead, hesitating, to sell or not to sell. Better check one more time. At the building where Kim Sin is working, colleagues in front of him were chatting excitedly. The apartment you're living in has gone up by more than 3 billion, right? This must be what it feels like to make money. The housing prices in Pankio are also rising, aren't they? Real estate investment is indeed the best, he thought to himself, feeling utterly exhausted. With dark circles under his eyes, he sipped the coffee in his hand while listening to them talk, thinking, looks like I won't be able to sleep today after all. Then he glanced at the people in front of him and thought, it's already gone up to 400 billion. Can it go higher? Maybe it's time to consider selling. Suddenly someone turned to ask him, Assistant Kim gets to go to Busan with Sue A, that's nice, right? He waved his hand and said, what's nice about it? It's for work. The other person replied, yeah, of course, it's for work. Then he gave him a confusing wink and continued, but it's still better than going with us, right? He turned his head to avoid the other man's gaze and said, I'm no co-man. Another person suddenly spoke up. Captain Ann, stock prices have been rising quite a bit lately, haven't they? He replied, even so, it's still a long way before we recover the initial investment. Compared to stocks, Bitcoin is now more popular. Hearing his words made me a bit uneasy and startled. The other person said, the price at the beginning of the year was 1 million won, but early investors have already made 8 times that, Captain Ann exclaimed in shock. 8 times, so if you invest 10 million, you'll get 80 million? Shouldn't we invest quickly then? Another person chimed in. That's right, nothing is more foolish than missing a chance to make money when others are making it. The three of them kept talking. I'll probably take money from my negative balance to invest, one person asked. Are you sure? Then I have to buy a little too. Another person chimed in, me too. You stood silently on one side, listening to their noisy chatter. Then he gave a faint smile. The face became dark and somewhat unpleasant, thinking, Bitcoin will rise even more. I'll wait a little longer. Right now, Kim Sin's current assets are 400 billion. He quietly thought, Bitcoin might rise even further. His colleagues are also paying attention to the cash flow now, and more people will invest in cryptocurrency later. Let's wait a little longer to see. After getting home, he stared intently at the computer screen, watching the price chart fluctuate constantly, and in the end, it dropped to the bottom. He held the mouse in his trembling hand, unable to hold back his amazement, starting from $7,500, and now it's down to $6,300. His face turned pale with worry, drenched in sweat. He was utterly shocked to realize that the total loss, when converted to Korean currency, was 60 billion won. Transitioning, he now holds a cup of coffee, sitting on a bench, looking up at the sky and exhaling a sigh. Then he exclaimed, what a beautiful day. He looked at the dry tree in front of him, feeling dejected, thinking, 60 billion is equivalent to 145 years of my salary. Attaching it to the tree to replace the leaves would be fine too. You unconsciously tighten the phone in your hand, hesitating inside, wondering if I should sell now, right? It's over 340 billion, stop being greedy and sell it. Thinking about it, he said, sell. But before he could finish his sentence, a voice startled him, and he looked over. What are you doing sitting here alone? It was Captain Ann and Kim Sang-ki. You stammered in surprise, calling his name, Kim Sang-ki. He responded, confused, yeah, Kim Sang-ki, your colleague here. Why are you so startled? He then glanced down at the phone screen in your hand. The screen was displaying the window of RateBit. He laughed and said, Sin, you played Bitcoin already? His words made him freeze instantly. Captain Ann chimed in. Oh, Assistant Kim plays Bitcoin, Sang-ki asked again. How much did you put in that you look so gloomy? He awkwardly replied, about 340, though he said that, in his mind he added, but the word billion has been dropped. Kim Sang-ki heard that and said, that's reasonable, it'll increase soon, so just wait. He sighed and replied wearily, how can it increase? Didn't you see how the price dropped sharply yesterday? They listened to you for a while. Then they looked at each other and smiled. You were shocked and asked, what's going on? Why are they laughing? Sang-ki opened his phone and said, you're really slow on updates. Then he handed the phone toward him and continued, hey, here's today's news. He looked at the phone screen in front of him, mouth agape, silently exclaiming, prices are rising again. He was so happy that tears welled up in his eyes, feeling secretly fortunate, so lucky. Kim Sang-ki patted his head like a senior and said, let's go. Anyway, don't be discouraged, just keep waiting, now is the time for real growth. You looked at him with distrust, thinking to yourself, what makes him so confident? If the price drops any further, I might be doomed. Captain An spoke up, Sang-ki, how much did you invest? He replied, I've put in 5,000 already. Captain An added, I only put in 500, my savings are gone. He glanced intently at the two of them talking, thinking to himself, maybe I should just hold on a little longer. A few days later, the Bitcoin fever hit the world hard. The news is all about it. Bitcoin surpasses $12,000. The virtual currency price keeps soaring. The Bitcoin investment craze is global. It's rising again. This morning it surpassed $13,000. Crypto miners, the slaves of the 21st century, crypto millionaires emerge. The number of college students and high school students investing in Bitcoin rises. Young people invest in Bitcoin to become dragons. Bitcoin skyrockets to $15,000. Bitcoin is a better store of value than gold. News about Bitcoin is constantly updated and fills various media channels and newspapers. The price of Bitcoin has risen. The current value is $19,000. Current financial assets of Kim Sin are $1 trillion. You can't believe the truth in front of your eyes, stammering. 1,000 billion. You were horrified by the number in front of you, turning pale, eyes and mouth wide open as if they couldn't open any wider. You clutched your chest in disbelief, thinking, is it real? A trillion? Did I really make this much money? You stood frozen, still in disbelief, letting out a few laughs. Then he bowed his head and gave a faint smile. Then he clutched his chest and sighed several times. After calming down, he frowned. His face became extremely serious as he thought, stay calm, only when it's sold will it truly be mine. His hand was now drenched in sweat and he mumbled, this is really the moment to make a decision. He hesitated, sell it or just wait a bit longer. He held his head, thinking with difficulty, what should he do now? A dark thought began whispering in his ear, idiot. Of course we have to wait a bit longer. Why would you want to go down when the cash flow is rising? It's only been a few days, and the amount has increased by hundreds of billions. Just sitting around, you can still earn hundreds of billions. Are you planning to miss out on this opportunity? Don't worry unnecessarily, now is the time for ambition. You were blinded by this ambitious thought and mumbled, right. Just wait a bit longer. He moved the mouse, intending to close the cell window. Suddenly, a phrase from his father came back to him, waking him up. Sin. Today I will definitely win. He immediately turned around. Looking at the portrait of my father. You stare intently at the photo placed on the cabinet. Sin heard his father's words clearly in his mind again. Sin, do you trust me? If I win today, I'll buy you new clothes and a new bag. Sin, lend me 20,000 kwan. There's something called Bitcoin that just came out lately. At that moment, he smiled lightly and said, I've got the answer. It's decided. Kim Sin's current assets remain a mystery. Transition, SUA is sitting and typing on the computer. Done, she stretched her body for a moment. She turned around, saw no one, and thought, Assistant Kim still hasn't come to work, or maybe he's on a business trip somewhere. Then she came to hand in the report to her superior and said, Captain Ann, here's the meeting transcript you requested. Ann took the notebook and said, You've worked hard, Sue. She suddenly remembered something and asked, Today Assistant Kim is on a business trip. The captain replied, You did well. No, today he took a day off. She worried, thinking, Why take a sudden leave? Nothing bad happened, right? Hopefully nothing serious. Over here, suddenly the elevator doors opened, and inside was a man. Then the man walked into the car dealership. The staff greeted him and asked, What model are you looking for? The man replied, I'm not sure, just here to take a look. Suddenly he saw a sleek white supercar. He asked, What car is that? And the staff replied, It's the newly launched model. The staff continued, It is an Italian sports car model Fiore 458, equipped with a 4.0L turbocharged V8 engine, all-wheel drive system, and 642 horsepower. This model is suitable for city commuting, sports driving, and track racing. He put his hand behind his back and said, All right, I will take that car. The staff replied, Sure, how would you like to pay? You handed over a white card, leaving the staff bewildered. It turns out the president was Kim Sin. He cheerfully told the staff, I'll pay it all at once. You remember, look at your father's picture and say, Thank you, my father. You continued, Thanks to my dad, I was completely alert. Then you moved the mouse and clicked the sell button. The price of Bitcoin was $19,000. That day, Kim Sin sold all the Bitcoin he owned for $1 billion. Owning $1 trillion in cash, becoming a wealthy person. You said, however, what to do with this money here. Back to reality, the waitress said. Thank you for choosing our brand. We will inform you when the car is shipped. The female staff bowed to greet him, thanked him, and wished him a safe journey. You are walking down the street. Then suddenly stopped. His face showed worry as he thought, It's over. I've lost 490 million won. He recalled the past and thought to himself, just a few days ago, he was trembling in fear over 200,000 kwan, and today, this is the first time in his life he spent such a large amount of money. Back to reality, he patted his chest, adjusting his breath. You look at the note I wrote and say, Well, it's done now. You happily said, The things I want to do when I have money, I have fulfilled my college dream. You continued, Let's see, next is. You looked at the high-rise building and said, It's a luxury apartment. Then he went to meet the seller. Seeing a customer, the staff greeted him. A female employee in a black shirt said, Welcome, please come in. The staff next to her quickly added, What type of property are you looking for? You walk in, holding a suitcase and say, I want to see the apartment for rent. Take me to one that's spacious, new, and has a view of the Han River. The employee whispered to the person next to him. He's looking for a luxury house, director. The director nodded in agreement with her words. The director said to you, I will take the guest right away. Upon arrival, he was surprised to see what was in front of him. The director cheerfully said, this apartment complex was completed last year. The one we are about to visit is 60 square meters in size and the rental price is 25 billion. She walked with him while talking, mentioning a flower garden along the walkway, a water park at the central square, and other community amenities like a swimming pool, with each area having different facilities. You hear the staff's introduction and think to yourself, only the rich live in a place like this. She calls you back, inviting you this way. The apartment is on the 11th floor. Arriving, she entered the password at the apartment door. Both stepped in to take a look. She asked the customer, does this space meet your expectations? He stared blankly for a moment and stammered, yes, it's fine. He thought to himself, it's so spacious, running and jumping freely must be nice. Both walked into the kitchen, the director said. The interior is fully equipped, and everything is top-notch. He looked at the dishwasher in front of him and wondered, a dishwasher? It's not like this is a restaurant, why would we need it? Both continued moving toward the restroom as the director continued the introduction. There's one restroom in the bedroom and one at the end of the hallway, so 2 in total. He glanced around and thought to himself, the restroom is bigger than the one at my current place. He asked, there aren't any insects here, right? The staff cheerfully replied, yes, sir. Since we're on a high floor, not even mosquitoes can be found. After hearing this, he felt relieved inside. Amazing. No wonder people like buying apartments. You reach a door and keep thinking, even if there are mosquitoes, it's fine. You open the door surprised. In front of you is an incredibly beautiful view, exactly $1 million view. You admire it and say, it's amazing. The director said, what do you think? If it's too big, we can check another place. Before he could finish, he quickly replied, this place works. He turned and said, I'll sign the contract right away. Then, he signed the contract, thinking to himself, there's a saying, if you're not happy, consider whether you're short on money. I've missed out on a lot because of money, but now I'm rich, so I don't have to anymore. The staff looked at the contract and said, we've confirmed everything. You can move in right away. How would you like to pay the deposit and the brokerage fee? He thought to himself from now on, after answering the staff, I will pay the rent in one go. She asked again just once. He opened his suitcase and said, all the money I'll pay in cash. Both employees were stunned by the huge amount of money. The one in black stammered, cash. The director pointed at the amount of money and said, you already brought the money earlier, right? You suddenly remembered and continued, oh, and, he said, please help me issue a cash invoice for the brokerage fee. Then he thought to himself, I will fulfill all my dreams. Seeing this, the 2 employees stood frozen, not knowing what to do. The female employee in black asked, what should we do with this money, ma'am? The director, with a confused look, said, I don't know either. I'm scared. At this moment, Kim Sin's current assets are 1 trillion. Transitioning to the tea room inside, Yeop asks, how did you find the restaurant yesterday? Was it good? The woman replied, yeah, both the food and the atmosphere are great. He said, I know an even better place. She asked curiously, a better place? He walked up to her and said, the night view there is really beautiful. She was a bit surprised and asked, oh my, why the night view? He asked back, do you want to know? He continued, so tonight, before he could finish his sentence, Sue opened the door, startling both of them. He turned around looking confused, then stammered, Sue, you shouted, Miss Sue? She nodded as she heard him call her name. You jumped back a few steps. Sue moved toward you. The voice full of menace called his name, Yoseob. He made him scared and stuttered, yes. Sue's face turned serious. She said, by any chance do you know where Assistant Kim Shin's house is? Yop panicked when he heard that and replied. He said, why are you asking about Senior Kim's house? Sue looked down and then replied, I want to check on him. Assistant Kim said he was sick today and took the day off. I'm worried if he's seriously ill. Yop was a bit puzzled upon hearing that. He thought to himself, a regular colleague in the company is worried like this. After thinking for a while, Yop spoke up. I don't know where his house is either. Let me ask him. Son A, hearing that, was quickly relieved and thanked Yop. Yop picked up his phone and texted Senior Kim saying, Senior, are you sick? After work, Sue and I are planning to visit you. Are you okay? Senior Kim quickly replied, you and Sue, that's sudden. After that, Yeop texted again, saying he was sick, so Sue was very worried about him. Senior Kim replied, it seems I've made everyone worry. I got it. I'll send you the address. After texting, Yeop told Sue that he said we could come. Sue couldn't contain her excitement and replied, Really? Thanks, Yop. At this moment, Yop had a feeling, he thought to himself. Could Sue be interested in Senior Kim? The two had changed into warm clothes and went to Senior Kim's house. Sue's face was filled with happiness. A reporter asked Sue, "What do you think about Senior Kim's house?" Her face then turned red, imagining the senior's house. She answered, "Assistant Kim's house, huh? Since he lives alone, he's probably in a small apartment. He's a tidy person, so the house would also be very neat, and there's also the image of him cooking." Then the reporter immediately asked Yop, "What do you think about Kim Shin's house?" Yop, confused, asked, "Are you asking me?" After that, Yop replied, "Let's see, he is probably still living in the villa he lived in before the divorce. Is he the frugal type or more of a minimalist? That's how I feel. Well, let's go there and check it out." At this moment, the area looked very peaceful, extremely gloomy. Yop and Sue arrived, but they were both shocked to see Kim's house. Senior Kim then spoke up, "Everyone has worked hard, come inside. Actually, I am not sick, sorry for making everyone come here. The house is a complete mess." Kim Shin carries a box and continues, "Since we're moving, it's a bit chaotic, but please make yourselves at home." Yop covered his mouth and thought to himself, "What is this place that looks like a warehouse? Does he live in a place like this? And that bad smell since earlier." At this moment, Kim Shin continued, "Sorry, it smells a bit, doesn't it? It's not the smell from the house, but from a leaking drainage pipe nearby. Even though the ventilation is on, the smell doesn't seem to go away, huh?" Sue curiously inspected the walls, while Kim Shin continued, "Sorry, I didn't mean for everyone to see this." Yop responded, "Sorry for what? On the contrary, I should be the one apologizing." Sue checked the walls for a moment and whispered, "A semi-basement house? I've only heard of it. Is there really such a shabby place?" Then she looked at her hand and continued, "After the divorce, has he been living in a place like this?" She teared up and continued, still living alone. Yop stood behind, watching Sue grow up, feeling utterly powerless, unable to do anything, and just remained silent. Then he sighed and walked over to Senior Kim, saying, "Senior, are you moving? Let me give you a hand." Sue also told me too. Seeing the two people helping him, Senior Kim spoke up, "Your clothes will get dirty, is that okay?" Yob responded, "This is nothing. Is this all the luggage?" Senior Kim just smiled without saying anything. It was already dark, and everyone had finished helping with the house cleaning. Sunbai Kim spoke up, "I really appreciate both of you so much." At this moment, they are unloading things from the car in the middle of the car lineup. Suddenly, Yop discovered something. He immediately said, "Why is the Fiori here?" Then Yop's eyes lit up. He continued speaking, glowing brightly. "Does the car owner have any business nearby?" Then his face showed a hint of sadness, and he thought to himself, "I really want to take a closer look at that car, but it feels a bit awkward in front of a senior, although maybe it's not that big of a deal." After that, Senior Kim had already gotten to the car without anyone noticing. He said, "Just put everything in here and it'll be fine." Yop and Sue were so surprised that they just stared, unable to say a word. Yop saw that and asked, "Senior, why are you standing in front of the Ferrari?" Senior Kim just replied, "This is my car." Yop was utterly shocked upon hearing that. It was like a lightning strike to his ears. He thought to himself, "What? This car belongs to a senior?" Then he looked at the car, while his senior and Sue were putting things inside. He thought to himself, if it were Ferrari, it would probably be over 400 million. I only know the annual maintenance fee is over 3,000. Could it be that he's poor because he bought the car? Then he silently thought, I don't know what's happening, but I really want to try. At this moment, Senior Kim stood next to the car and he said, "Since we're already here, would you all like to come see my new house?" Yop and Sue cheerfully responded yes. At this moment, Senior Kim spoke up, "Oh wait, on second thought, there's only one seat left, sorry, what should we do? I guess one of us will have to go there alone." Sue just mumbled, unable to say anything. Sue started to speak, but before I could say anything, Yop interrupted, saying he would go alone. Sue, feeling emotional, called out Yop. Yop smiled and replied, "All right, I'll drive over. I have to take the car anyway." Then Yop left, he said, "All right, I'll follow behind." Even though he said that, as he walked away, tears streamed down his face. He looked up at the sky and thought to himself, I also want to go Feori. Then he continued, "So keep trying, Sue." At this moment, Senior Kim and Sue were riding in the Ferrari, both laughing and chatting happily. Kim Shin said, "Come to think of it, this is the first time since we went on a business trip to Busan." Sue replied, "Yes, I think so." Senior Kim asked again, "Then did your parents say anything?" Sue quickly responded, acting like I was about to get married, and Mom often teased me about it. Senior Kim continued, "I can't play the husband," and Sue blushed, responding, How could I ask you to do that? After a moment of silence, she said to me, Assistant Kim. Then she suddenly turned and continued talking but the senior asked again, Sorry, I didn't hear anything. She couldn't say anything at that moment. Then she smiled and replied, It's nothing really. Then the two looked at each other in silence. Sue thought to herself, it wouldn't be a good time to ask about his divorce now. Then Senior Kim spoke up saying, Thanks for caring about me, both Ye-op and Sue. I'm sure everyone has a lot they want to ask, but they're not saying anything. Ma-Sue blushed, lowered her head and replied, I'll ask again later. Then she asked Senior Kim, Where are you moving to, sir? The senior replied to her, It's a secret, you'll know when you get there. At this moment, on the other side, it seems to be someone's room. In the room there was a phone conversation. Hello, oh my god, director, long time no see. The voice continued, Me, organizing old stuff. The girl is holding a wedding photo in her hands. Then she crumpled the picture and said, 6 months and it has to go too. The girl continued, Oh, so you've heard it already. It turns out, Chae-Kwan, she continued, I've decided to return to work starting next week. The traffic light now glows red. All vehicles in motion must stop. After a few seconds of waiting, the light turned yellow, and the engine of the Ferrari slowly started. When the light turned green, I pressed the gas pedal hard, and the car sped forward. Holding the steering wheel, it feels like being immersed in a beautiful dream. Yup, filled with happiness and tears streaming down, feels fulfilled even in death. Seeing him overreact a bit, Kim Sin was also helpless. If you die now, I'll be gone too. Ye-op was still enjoying this once-in-a-lifetime feeling. Thanks for the ride. Senior, the sound of the engine is truly a hymn. As the car was moving, Ye-op spoke up. Can I ask a question, Senior? What do you think about letting Sue? Hearing him ask so directly, Kim Sin felt a bit awkward. Yop, you must have been really surprised last time. Ye-op replied, That's why we're working together today. So your answer is, Kim Sin hesitated, shifting his gaze elsewhere. She is kind, highly capable, very caring toward others, and a junior who is deeply grateful. Ye-op listened intently to the answer, but the response stopped there, leaving him disappointed. He sighed. Kim Sin heard the sigh and said, If you sigh again, I'll take the car back. Ye-op immediately straightened up. Sorry, I'll switch to silent mode. After a while of moving, they both arrived at the company. At this moment, the main character was surrounded by two colleagues, and they bombarded him with questions. Hey Sin, did you just buy a Fiori? Is this really Assistant Kim's car? Kim Sin just grabbed the coffee cup, holding it tightly, and awkwardly replied, Rumors are already everywhere. Sang-ki quickly responded, You drive a Ferrari to work. Isn't that enough to stand out? Min-guk also admired, truly a Bitcoin legend. He kept asking, Didn't you say last time you put in 340? How could you make that much money? Kim Sin replied, I reinvested what I earned back then. I put my entire fortune into it. Hearing that answer, Sang-ki cried silently, feeling so jealous. I bought more stocks but still couldn't break even. Min-guk also lost all his savings. Sang-ki's Bitcoin loss rate is 40%. Min-guk's Bitcoin loss rate is 30%. At this moment, Sang-ki took Kim Sin's hand and whispered, My dear friend, could you really not accept my lifelong request? Can you share your investment secrets with me? You must be someone with a strategic eye to achieve that, right? Just guide me a little bit, Assistant Kim. I'm counting on you. Seeing how desperate they both were, Kim Sin felt conflicted. Looking at the expectant eyes of those two, all I can do is wait. So what can I show them? Perseverance, or else. At that moment, Kim Sin's eyes suddenly changed, and he shouted, Hey, the heart of the monster! The two people were stunned when they heard what he said, not understanding what was going on. Seeing those two discussing the monster's heart, Kim Sin couldn't do anything else. He got so nervous that he started talking nonsense, but it seemed to have no effect. I should tell them the truth. He scratched his face, stammering, Actually... Kim Sin was about to speak but got interrupted. I get it, my friend. Kim Sin didn't have time to figure out what was happening. Sang-ki spoke up, before focusing on skills. You must always stay determined in your investment efforts. You're really something, even your determination is different from others. This is what you wanted to explain, right? Captain Min-guk asked Kim, Do you invest in anything besides Bitcoin? Kim quickly replied, Yes, I'm currently splitting my investments into 2 areas. After buying a house and a car, the remaining account balance was reinvested into my child, because I guess the engine will continue to rise. I can tell you both, but investing and making judgments are up to each person. They both replied in unison, Of course. Isbel and Sliam, I have invested in these 2 coins. These are the new ones. Why are those 2? Sang-ki wondered. Kim Sin explained, Because they have clearer goals compared to the others. Isabel's clear goal is to support international transactions between banks, while Seo Lim aims to facilitate a wide range of blockchain-based transactions. Of course, this does not guarantee that the price of the offspring will increase, but compared to others, the likelihood that investors in the media will pay more attention to them is higher. After hearing this explanation, Sang-ki also began to realize the issue. That's right, the more they appear in the media, the higher their price goes. Hey, Assistant Kim. You seem to have learned a lot, Min-guk said to Kim Sin. He replied, after all, it's my own investment, I've put all my assets into it, and the thing is, all my assets amount to 97 billion. At this moment in the restroom, Sue is running water to wash her hands. She looked in the mirror, tidying her hair, too many things to do since morning. Assistant Kim is doing what? Right at this moment, two other women walk in, they are talking to each other. Da-eun, have you heard anything? What's going on? Has Assistant Kim from the sales department bought Fiori? Really? Is Assistant Kim that rich? Sue overheard them talking but didn't pay much attention. The rumor had already spread throughout the company. On the other side, they continued talking, but the truth is, borrowing money to buy that, those words left Sue stunned. Not the kind of poor where you can't buy a car, that's why I said, I heard he's usually addicted to alcohol and gambling, oh my god. So disappointing, Assistant Kim doesn't look like that kind of person. People often say that the quiet ones are the scariest. That's right. While those two were gossiping, Sue had already approached them from behind and spoke up. Hey, you two. Sorry for interrupting your conversation, but can you tell me who said these things? Sue's face darkened, looking very scary. Outside the hallway, a pair of black sandals with a mysterious look is walking. Anyone who saw the woman was left speechless by her beauty. She approached the desk of manager Min-guk and said, Hello, I'm from the support department, is Assistant Kim here? The manager saw her face and immediately recognized who she was, then replied, What should I do? Assistant Kim has gone out. If you want to leave any message for Assistant Kim, I will pass it along. Right at that moment, Chow Chow arrived. Kim Sin was carrying 3 heavy boxes, clumsily walking over. He loudly asked, Captain An, where should we put the documents for this meeting? The captain saw that and could only scratch his head in frustration. Then she spoke up, Over there. Suddenly Kim Sin tripped over his own foot, staggering and about to fall. A hand reached out to help him regain his balance. Kim Sin smiled and said, Thanks for helping me. But after seeing the face across, his eyes immediately widened in horror. That girl said you should be careful, Assistant Kim. How have you been doing lately? The person standing in front of him now is Chaekwon. When I saw her, all the old memories came rushing back. At that time, the two were in the hotel room. Chaekwon raised his voice irritably. What kind of hotel is this? Did we really book the right place? Kim Sin calmly replied, Isn't it great? This is the hotel everyone visits during their honeymoon, she said with displeasure. Is this your first time booking a hotel? You shouldn't just look at reviews but check it out in person too. Kim Sin hesitated and said, Sorry, I've looked into it thoroughly, she snapped back. Stop making excuses. Are you still unable to learn how to apologize when you're wrong? How can you justify everything? Don't make that pitiful face, you're turning me into the bad guy. Damn it, listen to me first. When did I say that? Again? So I'm the only bad person here? Appa, don't you ever reflect on yourself? Please, grow up a bit. I'm saying this for you. Appa, why do you talk so weird? What does that even mean? Can't you do anything without me? Am I really that sensitive? Please think before you speak. A stream of angry words poured out of this beautiful woman's mouth. Looking at her bright red lips still makes him feel exhausted. If you don't marry me, you won't be able to marry anyone. With that thought, she spoke up to greet, Hello, Assistant Kim. Kim Sin felt awkward. What to do now? She immediately said, I have documents to give to Assistant Kim, so I came here. Can you check them for me? The main character heard this and remained silent for a while. Then he set the stuff down on the ground. The face darkened, slowly stood upright. Colleagues around who witnessed the situation also felt worried. She stood still, waiting for his answer. Kim Sin gently said, I understand, Chaekwon. Thank you for bringing it. So I'll go ahead now. Then he confidently walked past her. Seeing him respond so casually made her bite her lip in frustration. She went back to her room, unable to shake off the frustration. When they got married, he couldn't even look her in the eye. But now, after the divorce, his attitude had changed like that. That poor guy drove a Ferrari to work. If I had known, I would have endured and stayed with him for another year. Then the Ferrari would have been mine. As she pondered, she took out her employee card and swiped it to enter the room. The room opened up in front of everyone. Things had come to this point. If I can't have it, I won't let you off the hook, she began her act. Tears streaming down, she said, I'm back. Female colleagues immediately gathered around, concerned, teasing Kwon for going alone. I told you not to go by yourself. What's wrong with you? Did Assistant Kim say something? She wiped her tears and choked out. It was just about handing over some documents and talking about the company. Then suddenly he got mad and told me to keep personal and professional matters separate. I didn't even say anything personal. Seeing her like that, her colleagues comforted her. Jaekwon, don't cry. Who would have thought Assistant Kim could be like that? But from afar, a curly-haired girl sat quietly observing everything, only letting out a silent sigh. Returning to the main character, he calmly sat in front of the computer, typing away. However, he kept thinking about her. Jaekwon had been reinstated. Actually, I was curious to know what feelings I would have when I met her again, but there wasn't much as I thought. It's so magical. Breaking up means you can't do better than others. At this moment, a hand patted his shoulder and said, Assistant Kim, are you free now? Come talk to me for a bit, let's go to the rooftop. After getting to the rooftop, Sang-ki suddenly hugged him and said, Congrats, brother. Other colleagues clapped and said, Kim-sin, I trust you, Assistant Kim, you're amazing, congratulations. Everyone had a cheerful expression, but no one explained to him what was happening. Right then, the protagonist grabbed Sang-ki's arm and asked, What's going on? Sang-ki excitedly said, Oh, haven't you checked yet? The EBIT has increased by 70% in just 2 days. Kim-sin heard this news and started pondering. So it's up by 70%. Let's see. So what's the final profit margin? This morning, the exchange rate for IKBILO was $58 million. If it goes up 70%, that makes it $98.6 million. A mountain of money started to appear in Kim-sin's mind. Just the value of Libial alone had increased to nearly 100 billion won. Other colleagues were also excited and laughed loudly. I invested 40 million won in IKBILO and received Luangbang for the whole year. I recovered my capital and made double. Gotta make a living, gotta make a living. A colleague stepped forward and said, I should have asked Assistant Kim before telling everyone, sorry for sharing this on my own. Kim-sin immediately replied, It's okay, it's not like it's a lottery number or anything. At this moment Sang-ki touched him and asked, Hey man, be honest, how much did you invest in the ICO? You invested at least 300 million won, right? Hearing his question, Kim-sin thought for a moment. He hated lying, but telling the truth felt awkward, so he said, 1 billion in Sibello and 1 billion in Cilium. Other colleagues were surprised, really. You invested that much, that's impressive. So this time you must have earned at least $700 million. Bro, what now? Sell right away? Kim-sin replied, Don't ask me. You're the one making the decision. Investing is a personal matter. Sang-ki said, I know, I'm just curious about your decision. Surely it will rise quickly. Wasn't it IKBILO initially created to speed up interbank transactions? Due to its nature, the price won't fluctuate significantly. Greed is sweeping through the market more than I thought. Selling now is fine, but isn't a strong increase for 2 consecutive days, a sign that something is about to happen. Kim-sin thought for a moment, then advised, It's not time to sell yet. Sang-ki, hearing this, said, Really? Isn't that too greedy? Kim-sin, full of experience, replied, Everyone is very ambitious right now, so I'll wait a bit longer. That day, rumors of Kim-sin's resounding success with cryptocurrency quickly spread throughout the company. The rumor said he had amassed a huge fortune at a young age, enough to capture everyone's attention. Before long, it became the talk of the town, with colleagues in the company spreading the word. Have you heard the news? Assistant Kim from the sales department made over 1 billion won from stocks. Of course I've heard. They say it's over 4 billion now. It was 2 billion at first, but they say the investment in stocks doubled it. Even the members of the team are making some money thanks to Assistant Kim. How about we ask them to give us some tips? But lately, bad rumors about Assistant Kim have been spreading. How do I say this? I heard he hit his ex-wife and took her money. Oh hey, that person, the assistant I know isn't like that. Are you sure about that? I don't know, I just heard it that way. Be careful with your words because someone might have spread rumors to harm Assistant Kim. That must be it. Chigwon stood outside the door eavesdropping, and she had been so angry that she bit her lip tightly. The screeching sound of 2 sets of teeth grinding against each other made everyone in the room shudder. Drop the coffee I just bought. What the heck? At a street cafe, Sue sat upright at the table, staring blankly at the scenery. People in the coffee shop stared at her in awe. She's so beautiful. Is she a model or an actress? Truly stunning. It seems unusually low pressure. Right at this moment, the person she was waiting for arrived. Sue, sorry for being late. Have you been waiting long? Sue replied directly, Nothing, I just got here. Yop then said, Good thing, you'll buy the coffee. Sue spoke up. What suddenly happened to him? I have a few things to say about Assistant Kim. Yop shook the coffee cup in his hand, looked her straight in the eye and said, Quite straightforward, huh? Good, but I have one question first. What do you think about the recent rumor about Assistant Kim? Sue was surprised. What rumor? He immediately said. Assistant Kim is rumored to be addicted to gambling and violent with his ex-wife. Sue immediately got upset. stood up to refute, of course. It was all lies. Assistant Kim wasn't like that. Someone had spread malicious rumors. Iop calmly said, "Your answer makes me very satisfied, so let me ask one more question. Cho Sua, you like Assistant Kim, don't you?" At first, hearing the question, Sue was stunned, standing frozen for 5 seconds. Then it slowly burst out, shouting, "What? What is that supposed to mean? No, it's not that I don't like it, but you seem to be all over the place with your answers." Yop immediately said, "No need to hide it from me, I already knew. That's why I'm helping." Iop gently placed the coffee cup down and said to her, "Sue, go find Senior Kim right now and tell him you like him." In another corner, the man suddenly rushed to hug Kim Sin and happily said, "I love you, brother." Just as the young man was still wondering what is going on here, everyone moved forward to praise him, thanking Assistant Kim. "I believe in you." Seeing them, the protagonist suddenly looked a bit confused as the crowd had grown much larger, so he decided to ask his friend Song-ki, "Who are these people?" To which the other quickly replied, "What, can't you tell by looking? Thanks to you, many people have successfully invested." Next, everyone continues to praise the main guy. "Thanks to him, I was able to pay rent, and I even got a new car. I made about 500, I'm really grateful to him." Hearing these words, Kim Sin couldn't help but be astonished. Has the number of people really grown this much? After the rumors about Kim Sin's successful investment spread, most of ACO's employees jumped into investing. After that, IPLA from 930 kwan suddenly surged to 1,485 kwan, and all those who believed in Kim Sin and invested are experiencing a boom. That's why they all adored the male lead, constantly coming up to hug and kiss him. "My precious, I love you, Sin," the young man reluctantly said. "I'm just glad everything turned out fine." At that moment, someone suddenly asked, "Assistant Kim, you invested around 2 billion won last time, right? So didn't you make nearly 10 billion? Kim Sin smiled and replied, "It's not that much." In his heart, he silently thought, yes, it's not that bad. Because of Kim Sin's current assets, it's about 578 billion. 578 billion is enough to buy a company if you have enough determination. I did invest with the expectation that Iplel and Sliam would increase in value, just like tending to a seedling every day with the hope that it will grow quickly. But there's something unexpected. Kim Sin couldn't help but exclaim, "The young sprouts are growing so fast they're really shooting up." The guy could only smile awkwardly at the giant tree in front of him. In his heart he thought, I never expected it to increase like this in just a month. I had predicted that people would gather, but it's happening too fast. Seeing the pensive look on the main character's face, suddenly a voice cut through his thoughts. "Assistant Kim. We also want to learn about you, we heard you're a great investor." Kim Sin, not very confident, said, "Let's see, investing now seems a bit risky." The girls upon hearing this asked why. The young man quickly explained, "Prices rise rapidly in a short time, the faster they go up, the faster they will drop." Hearing this, the girls were all in awe. "You really are an expert, so what about the other investment categories? Tell us more." At the same time, Chaekwon witnessed the scene just now and showed a jealous expression. She kicked over the trash can with hatred boiling inside, really frustrated. "Everyone keeps talking about Kim Sin. Kim Sin, what's so great about that foolish guy? He was broke when he got married, did he deceive me? Damn, though it might sting my pride a bit. Indeed, there is no other way." In the ACO chat group, everyone is enthusiastically discussing. According to Song-ki, Ispelo is sailing smoothly. Min-guk thinks there's no need to be jealous of the feeling of test driving the Beano. The others are joking around, and I'm also going to try the 16th floor. At this rate, will I end up buying a yacht? Kim Sin read the message and said to himself, now the company chat group is all about the kid. Luckily, no one was hurt, right? As soon as he finished speaking, a message appeared on his screen. It left him utterly shocked, frozen for a few seconds. The message wasn't from the person who had been harmed, but from his ex-wife. "How are you doing?" The notification popped up in front of him like a wake-up call. "This user is not your friend. Be careful not to lose money." He wondered to himself, Han Chae-gwan. Suddenly, what happened? The other person kept texting with a remorseful attitude. "I know you've had a hard time since the divorce reading this," Kim Sin smirked inwardly. "Not at all, quite the opposite. It's been very happy." Chaekwon pretended to blame herself. "I've been thinking a lot lately. I think it's because I lacked empathy." After watching, the male lead still couldn't quite understand her intentions. What is she talking about? His ex-wife kept sending messages. "You've been living alone without your parents by your side. I probably didn't understand you well and treated you poorly. I don't want to talk like this. Let's meet and talk in person. Tomorrow is a holiday, so you probably have time, right? Let's meet at 4 p.m. at the usual store we used to go to. I will wait for you." Upon reading this, Kim Sin firmly decided to leave the chat room, even though the app had asked for confirmation. If you leave the group, the member list and chat history will be deleted. Do you want to leave the group? Faced with the sweet words of his ex-wife, Kim Sin kept a cool head, his heart steady and unwavering. Why should I meet her? I need to block her number immediately. Suddenly, the phone rang. The man hurriedly answered the phone. Hello, Sue. The person on the other end reacted as if this was a rare occurrence for him. Assistant Kim immediately picked up the call. The guy quickly explained, I'm just looking at my phone. It's late, what's the matter, Sue? The girl replied in a low voice. Nothing at all. I tried calling to check in. Not sure if you're busy, the male lead casually replied. Not at all, it's already 8 o'clock. Sue, did you have a good rest? The other person asked cheerfully. Yes, after working out, I got everything ready. Tomorrow's a holiday, what are you going to do? I'm planning to go to the Kim Sin Mall, he replied. Sue continued. The mall again? The young man didn't hide anything and honestly said, I threw out all the furniture when I moved. On the other end of the line, Sue gathered all her courage to make a suggestion. So, if it's possible, can I go with you? Hearing these words, the male lead couldn't help but be surprised. Seeing him remain silent, the girl showed clear signs of sadness. However, the next words made her happier than ever. There's nothing that can't be done, so tomorrow at 4, let's meet in front of the shopping center. Yes. That's fine, good night, Sue replied cheerfully. She quickly pressed the button to end the call, then buried my face in the pillow, overwhelmed with joy. I thought to myself, my voice probably wasn't shaking too much. Recalling the image of the colleague trying to persuade, Sue, now go find Senior Kim right away. And tell him that she likes him. Thinking of this, her cheeks suddenly turned red. She sat there thinking for a long time. Then she told herself, I don't know how to confess, but tomorrow I must try my best. The next day, in front of the commercial center building, Kim Sin was already here, while he quietly wondered if he had arrived a bit early. Is there a cafe nearby? A voice suddenly came from the other side. Sin. You came early. Did you wait long? The male lead awkwardly replied, No, I just got here too. You just called me Appa. The girl quickly explained, We're not in the company. I can't call you that. The boy, hearing that, also agreed. Relax, go inside quickly, it's really cold out here, Sue immediately chimed in. She then gently glanced to the left, quietly watching Kim Sin. The more she looked at the person in front of her, the happier she became. Next, the two walked side by side into the shopping mall. The girl asked, Which one should we check out first? As soon as they stepped into the store, the main character and Sue were warmly greeted by the staff. Welcome, please come in. The girl walked while thinking to herself, Come to think of it, this is the first time we've met alone. Could this be? How about dating, after painting a beautiful future when she and Kim Sin fall in love? Suddenly she felt happy. Suddenly the young man excitedly said, Sue, look at this. The blanket is so cozy. After hearing that, the woman silently thought to herself, He seems excited, maybe he likes shopping. Then she agreed with the other person's opinion, right? It looks so soft. On this side, Kim Sin touched the blanket and recalled his painful past. When in the semi-basement, no matter what, he had to use thick and heavy blankets, so he never knew that a blanket could be this light and warm. Without hesitation, the guy pulled out his card and paid. I'll take these 3 sets, thanks. The polite staff replied, Thank you. Arriving at the area, Kim Sin was once again drawn to another item, and seeing this, Sue asked what it was this time. The excited young man said, The new cordless vacuum looks like a rocket model. Is it really that powerful? The girl suddenly asked. The male lead quickly sealed the deal. Give me this machine. The staff took the bank card once again, cheerfully said thank you. Next, Kim Sin seemed excited when he saw the modern gadgets. Look, there's a screen on the fridge. So they sell the whole set too? The sofa chair can adjust its angle. Just like that, the sound of card swipes kept echoing as Kim Sin sealed deals like a machine. The guy looked in the mirror and thought to himself, if I had money, the mall would be an interesting place. Even though I've spent a lot, it seems like I haven't spent it all yet. It feels like when I was a kid playing games with hacks. Finally, he turned to the person next to him and said, Sorry, I was just staring, so you must be bored. Sue quickly denied it. Not at all, I actually enjoyed it. Her heart whispered happy, but I keep thinking about what Don Jape said. Thinking about it, she told herself. That's right, Don Jap was right. I can't keep hesitating forever. Today, it's certain to say, Sue finally mustered all her courage and spoke up, Appa, unexpectedly. At that moment, Kim Sin's voice also rang out, Sue. This coincidence left both of them stunned. They kept insisting the other go first. You go ahead. No, you go ahead. It's not urgent, so it's fine. Then Kim Sin spoke up. All right, you go first. Hearing that, the girl breathed a slight sigh of relief, startled. The male lead gets straight to the point, honestly then. After hearing him out, Sue's expression shifted from excited anticipation. Suddenly, eyes widened in astonishment. She wanted to ask to confirm, why? At this moment, the clock struck 9:30. The angry woman gritted her teeth and said, Kim Sin, you stood me up? In another corner, the man shouted with determination, Everyone, Leo 10,001 is not far away. Let's move forward, let's go. In contrast to his enthusiasm and everyone else's. Over here, everyone was incredibly calm. Minguk, witnessing the scene just now, remarked, Look at how fierce they are. It seems like all the staff are now investing in it. The people nearby chimed in, Everyone's making money, how could they just sit still? But isn't that assistant Nasanguk? It is considered a form of gambling that only fools play, and I, the assistant, just wanted to try the taste of money. Kim Sin stood to the side, deep in thought. In just 2 months, sodium had tripled, and iodine had increased tenfold. The rate increased by 1,300% compared to the original price of 301. This profit margin turned the coin's critics into fanatics. Greed brings people together. Everyone ignores greed, believing they will have it, but no one knows its consequences. When I make money, I feel really happy, but upon reconsideration, prices dropped. Losing capital, if starting to suffer losses, that was when hell began. And that then, I am no exception either. Going back in time to the past, his father once taught him, Sin, you must remember, just because you stay straight at the casino doesn't mean you'll make money right away. So when will you get it? Remember those things. Kim Sin suddenly voiced his thoughts, knowing when to stop after making money. Switching scenes, the company chat group is buzzing with discussions about Leo and expressing gratitude towards the male lead. Sanguk watched and said, Ask Kim Sin to deal with those idiots. Isn't he just lucky? Well, what could a mere ant know anyway? Next, he started getting cocky, saying investments should be handled by experts like me. Just 1 month in and already made 100 million. If EBL keeps going up to 10,000, the profits will be in the billions. Just like they say, life is a fierce battle. The man keeps dreaming of a better future, when I'll buy a house overlooking the Han River, get a few sports cars and more. Loving someone as beautiful as Sue, lost in a beautiful dream when suddenly the sound of a message notification rang out. Sanguk clicked and saw that Kim Sin had messaged in the company chat group saying, I want to let everyone know. After watching, he asked himself, What's this? Asking for info on the new token, right? The main character continued, Today I'll tell you about IBL, Sly I will sell everything. Everyone was surprised when they read this shocking news. Sanguk originally wondered if he should sell while the price was so good. Was he even thinking straight? Amid everyone's extreme confusion, he quickly spoke up to reassure them. Kim Sin, are you thinking straight? No, everyone, don't listen to Assistant Kim. The man immediately typed to explain, How can you sell during the golden period? Think carefully, IBLO is full of opportunities. After sending the message, he showed disdain for Kim Sin, not expecting him to be unaware of such basic things, truly an amateur. Then he tried to convince everyone that when financial transactions between banks begin, IBLO would take the lead, and people would only be able to buy IBLO. If supply and demand support each other and the goal is clear, why feel uneasy and sell? On this side, Kim Sin presented his opinion. I have no intention of changing everyone's mind with just a few words of mine. Responsibility and investment decisions are personal matters for each individual, and my decision is final. Typing the final message. The guy put the phone down on the table, telling myself, so now the only thing left is to meet team leader On tomorrow. The next morning in the tall company building, Kim Sin, dressed neatly, went to a certain room. The guy walked into the room and called out for leader On Minguk. Do you have time? I have something to tell you. Kim Sin walked over to Minguk's desk and asked, Team leader Minguk, do you have a moment? I have something to tell you. Minguk looked hesitant but said nothing. Then the leader stood up and said, Oh really? Then let's go somewhere else. Yes sir, where should we go? To the rooftop. Once they reached a quieter spot, Minguk felt more at ease with him. The team leader patted Kim Sin on the shoulder, congratulating him. Well done, Assistant Kim. Already had money, but this time I'll be even richer. Thanks to you, I've earned enough to drink for the rest of my life, Kim Sin murmured softly. Leader, it hurts a bit. Then quickly returned to the main topic. Minguk asked Kim Sin, what do you want to say? Nothing much. Kim Sin suddenly took out a white envelope. The team leader immediately noticed this. So this is the resignation letter, Kim Sin confessed. I'd like to request a 2-week leave. Is that okay? Minguk took it and approved. All right, request granted. At that moment he was startled. What, a vacation? Not quitting? He was immediately confused by the unexpected attitude of the team leader. Yeah, quitting? Minguk said, You've made so much money, I thought you were going to quit. It's not that I haven't thought about it, but I still haven't prepared anything. Honestly, I'm starting to think about what I said to Sua earlier. I'm considering whether I should go to the US for about 2 weeks. I kept thinking about what I could do with the money I earned, but maybe because I just worked at the company and did part-time jobs, I couldn't come up with anything. At that moment, I truly felt like I lacked experience and knowledge. So I'll take this opportunity to study a bit more. I plan to go to the US to expand my knowledge. Sue suddenly became indescribable, so that's how it is. Looking at the expression of the girl in front of him, Kim Sin was a bit confused. Was Sua about to say something? She could hear his thoughts, so she no longer intended to stop his plans. Her lips tightened. It's nothing, wishing you a safe trip. After hearing Kim Sin explain everything, Min-guch nodded. All right, I'll take care of it for you. Go enjoy yourself, thank you. However, his next words made Min-guch toss and turn a lot. He asked his team leader, can I continue living like this? Min-guch glanced over and asked, what do you mean by that? Kim Sin then confessed, even though I make money from my kid, I don't know what I'll have to do in the future. Among the skyscrapers ahead, Kim Sin added, I don't have any hobbies or dreams like everyone else, nor do I have any special talents. I wonder if chasing money like this without a dream is worth it. I'm always envious of those who have dreams. Some people dedicate their entire lives to singing, sports, or drawing. They are people with dreams and passion, something I don't have. Min-guch thought about what he had just heard, looking toward the emptiness of the future. The team leader expressed his thoughts, dreams, Assistant Kim. Maybe it's because I'm the boring type in society. But I think it's just like a dog's bark. Kim Sin was noticeably stunned. It's not something to be proud of, but I'll tell you this story. My dream when I was a kid was to become a golf player. My parents also loved playing golf, so they encouraged me. Since the age of 10, my parents have supported and trained me to become a specialist. The palms turned bright red, although bruises and calluses appeared on his hands. Just holding the golf club, the pain disappears like a lie. Kim Sin curiously asked the team leader, so isn't it because of your dream that you're really happy? Of course I'm happy, Min-guch replied. He kept telling the story until I learned the truth. Later I found out that the costs for using the court and the tuition fees were enormous, to the point that it could bankrupt my family. Finally, I gave up on my dream. As you can see, I'm living like this. Do you know what my dream is now? Without letting Kim Sin respond, the team leader spoke up. Don't worry about it. Just enjoy a baseball game with your family. He put his hand on Kim Sin's shoulder as if he had unloaded all his thoughts. Dreams? It would be great if you had them, but I hope you're not too affected by them. Life is long, and you can find anything you want to do. So don't overthink it. Just be happy. Do whatever you want. No matter what you do, I'll always support Assistant Kim. Min-guch kept patting him on the back as a sign of encouragement. The leader said, let's end it here. Thanks for listening to my lecture. Kim Sin sighed with relief. No, it was really helpful. It seems he had begun to grasp the idea of what dreams are, Kim Sin thought to himself. That's right. It's okay to have dreams a little late. Just take things one step at a time. Min-guch's voice echoed again. By the way, Assistant Kim, yes? The team leader suddenly whispered softly to him, I also have some questions about Assistant Kim. How much did you make this time? You look pretty confused, so Min-guch promised. I'll keep it a secret, so can you tell me a little? He didn't speak directly but chose to beat around the bush, looking at the Gangnam building not far away. Kim Sin hinted, Team leader, how much is the apartment price in Gangnam these days? Let me see, it's probably around 1.5 to 2 billion won. Kim Sin muttered, if calculated at that exchange rate, it's about 2 billion. Then, he whispered into Min-guch's ear about the question from earlier. I wonder what he heard from Kim Sin that made his eyes widen and his mouth drop open in shock. Do you really have that much? He ignored the question and bowed to say goodbye to his team leader. Min-guch's hand trembled with every beat. Sweat poured down. Kim Tae-hyun truly became ridiculously rich. At this point, the number Min-guch heard was revealed. Kim Sin, the current assets. 1,000 apartments in Gangnam, somewhere around 1.2 trillion. Switched to an international airport scene. The sound of rolling suitcases echoed in the waiting hall. Kim Sin had prepared for a short-term study trip to the US according to his plan. He felt a bit excited seeing so many people here. It had been a long time since he last flew, ever since the conference in Germany, and he was a little thrilled. As he entered the passenger cabin, 4 flight attendants warmly greeted him. Welcome, and thank you for choosing our airline. He was very pleased with this service attitude. Indeed, having money is good. In the past, flying economy class was a bit cramped and inconvenient, so this is what first class feels like. Suddenly, he vaguely overheard a fellow passenger in the same cabin talking about something. A woman's voice came up. I'm very satisfied with this design. It will work well for the target audience, which is young people. It's time for compact cars to thrive in South Korea. The girl realized she had raised her voice a bit, so she paused for a few seconds and looked over at Kim-san. He understood and gestured for her to continue her work. Just like that, the girl kept talking to her partner. Handle it that way. The plane has taken off, so if there's anything urgent, just send me an email. Just hung up? She immediately turned to him. Sorry, I had an urgent matter to take care of. He didn't mind and was very understanding. It's okay. There's no other way when it comes to company matters. The girl over there seems to understand a bit about Kim-san's personality. From her pocket, she took out a business card and said, We have to be together for 11 hours. Let's introduce ourselves. I'm the CEO of Mira. My name is Ki-young. Kim-sin looked at the business card and thought quickly, the director is really young. She must be very successful, or the granddaughter of a business tycoon. Then he said, I forgot to bring my card. I'm Assistant Kim-sin, a sales employee at a pharmaceutical company. Ki-young was a bit surprised by the title of sales assistant. She found it hard to believe that an ordinary sales staff like her could sit in first class. Kim-sin talked with Ki-young about some unusual things to kill time, saying that people these days mainly make money through investing. On the other hand, Sua at the company kept thinking about him, Assistant Kim, who was probably on the plane by now. The first meal was served. A premium seared beefsteak reserved only for first class was placed in front of Kim-sin. He looked at her, unable to hold back his emotions. When the knife gently touches the sauce-covered meat, along with a bit of seasoning on top, Kim-sin put the whole delicacy into his mouth. Only when the tip of his tongue touched the beef did his instincts start to explode. So delicious. Every time I chew a tender piece of meat, the juices flood my mouth, and the accompanying sauce perfectly balances the flavors. Can't believe I got to try these dishes on a plane. So this is what first class tastes like. Even the wine is sweet. Kim-sin hummed softly along with the gentle melody playing from the speaker, just as a thought crossed his mind, wondering if he would be called again. Ki-young was convinced by his unusual actions that, no matter how you looked at it, this seemed to be his first time in first class. Was he really just an ordinary employee? It's hard for a regular employee to sit in first class. Suddenly Kim-sin glanced over at her. Ki-young responded with his own intuition. Of course Kim-sin had no ill intentions. He was simply impressed by Ki-young's upright posture and thought highly of it. In her shy gaze, Kim-sin continued to assess, showing no awkwardness in handling the fork and knife. Her posture also looked very natural. I think her posture is very beautiful. Sorry for scaring you. Ki-young quickly hid his face. She replied, No, not at all. No problem. Once again Kim-sin made her heart waver. After the meal, Ki-young and Kim-sin had another chance to talk, this time about her work. Kim-sin looked at what she just showed him and felt very intrigued. So this is the car ad concept for this time. The commercial was shot on a desert road. It's fantastic. Ki-young added, seeing it in real life makes me like it even more. The car launched this time is not only targeting the Korean market, but also the US market. Amid the excitement, Ki-young asked him what car he was using, not the car of the future. Hearing this, Ki-young replied, It's okay, because knowing what car you drive can reveal your preferences and other things, that's why I asked. He didn't hide it and said the name Fieri 458 Italian version, a name that left everyone speechless. We plan to launch sports car models in the future. We are also investing heavily in electric and driverless cars. Kim-sin immediately came up with an idea. Thinking back, I once drove a driverless electric car on Jeju Island. This sentence just pulled Ki-young in. She eagerly asked him, What do you think? The difference in feeling between the gas pedal and the brake was immense. Once again, Ki-young froze. She was stunned by those words. On the other hand, Kim-sin kept diligently evaluating. Bin ran out faster than I thought. Driving was also a bit inconvenient, so that's how it is. He glanced slightly towards Ki-young, realizing he had truly changed. If it were before, it would be very difficult to speak directly to the CEO of the driverless electric car company. Is this the confidence that money brings? Due to all that, Kim-sin decided to change the subject before things got worse between them. He said, We've been talking about cars this whole time. You seem to really like cars. Yes, that's right. I've liked them since I was little, so I made it my career. Now I'm trying to test drive as many cars as I can. Have you tried any cars yet? Recently I tested a Mini in England. The car feels perfect, with excellent performance and great design, so I was drawn to it. Hearing this tone, Kim-sin felt pleased, lucky that she had regained her spirit. It will still be a long time before the plane lands in the US. The flight attendant announced through the PA system, We will guide passengers, and in a moment, our plane will arrive at San Francisco International Airport to assist passengers. Even so, Ki-young's voice drowned out the loudspeaker. She was still immersed in the knowledge about the car quality she had experienced. Although competition has weakened due to cars being easy to manufacture and having high profit margins, I believe that with the technology they have accumulated, they can leap forward at any moment. When I was studying at Cali University, I once went camping in the Mojave Desert with friends, spending a night in the desert, so quiet it felt like being on Mars. Shortly after, the plane landed at the international airport as announced. Ki-young reached out to show sincerity. Delighted to meet you, Kim-sin. Be sure to stay in touch when you return to Korea. So wishing you a fun trip. Kim-sin politely reached out to shake her hand. Yes, wishing Ms. Ki-young a pleasant trip, but deep down he sighed with relief for escaping the professional chatterbox. He hurriedly grabbed his luggage and left. The flight was truly exhausting. Couldn't believe he spent hours talking. Next time he definitely needs to stay quiet. The door at the airport gate opened. In front of Kim-sin is a city of tall white people. He couldn't contain his happiness. His eyes widened as if he had just seen gold. Not far from there, a passenger from the US was bargaining with the driver, which also made him hesitate. Really? Already arrived in America? Suddenly a voice called from behind him, "Sin-ah, Kim-sin." When he turned around, he saw a chubby guy rushing towards him. "Welcome to America, you've had a hard time." Both then shook hands, but what bothered Kim-sin was Mungwoo's appearance. Why did he gain so much weight? "My friend, someone my size wouldn't be considered heavy in America." Speaking briefly about him, Mungwoo was my best friend during our university days. We lived together in a basement apartment and went through tough times. He landed a job at a foreign IT company and moved to the US through his own efforts. He's the friend I'm grateful to for letting me stay with him on this trip to the US. Remembering the last time he met Mungwoo made Kim-sin even more incredulous. No way, it seemed like he had changed a lot. Mungwoo asked, "Are you hungry? Shall we go eat? Have you booked the restaurant yet? What kind of old-fashioned restaurant is that? When you come to the US, you must try a burger first." A fork is stabbed straight into a ripe cherry tomato. This person is Chaekwon, and the reason she's so angry is that she can't get in touch with Kim-si. "How dare you stand me up?" I've already lowered myself this much, and the female colleague next to me noticed her expression. "Your face doesn't look too good. What's wrong?" Chaekwon immediately regained his smile. "Oh my, sorry, I suddenly thought of my ex-husband. I heard he's on vacation in the US now. A man who only knows gambling every day. How does he have the money to get there? He must have mortgaged his car to get the money. Clearly the money earned from you has been wasted on gambling. I haven't even paid back the money I borrowed from my mom when I got married. Domestic violence, cheating, everything." A different voice suddenly spoke up. "Chaekwon, it's really unbearable. Aren't you the one who's truly wicked? If you've broken up, just end it. This curly-haired woman is Hai. Chaekwon met his nemesis and immediately lowered his tone. "Leader Hai." "Well," Hai kept mocking, "I've been trying to stay silent and let it go, but the problem between you two is for you to solve yourselves. But Assistant Kim, he's famous for being hardworking in the company. They say he's never harmed anyone, let alone gotten angry with others. It doesn't seem like what Chaekwon said." "I don't understand why Chaekwon keeps bad-mouthing Assistant Kim." Hai started to raise her voice, seeming like she was jealous. "Not a star." Chaekwon took a deep breath, his voice trembling more than before. "It's a bit too much, Captain." "Why are you being so harsh with me?" she said, then stormed off as everyone watched. Regarding Hai, she just watched Chaekwon's back without saying anything. In the restroom, Chaekwon's scolding rang out a few times, acting like he was so noble, even though he's already that old and just became a team leader. She even kicked over the trash can nearby. "Everyone looks down on me, fine, just wait and see." With that, Chaekwon immediately took out his phone. She checked the balance fluctuations in her account. Seeing the 9-digit figure, she began to gloat, because in the end, the one who laughs last will be me. On the rooftop of the company, a chart was presented along with a few announcements. "Look at this, I was right. I didn't sell the stock for a whole day and made an extra 10% profit." Minguk warned his employees, "We need to determine the right timing before selling anything." Assistant Kim seems a bit impatient. "Now is the best time to buy stocks. If you're too worried to buy, you won't get that price again. Just trust me and follow my lead. That stock will rise 100-200 times more in the future," a frustrated employee said, speaking as if the stock was guaranteed to soar. Donggi asked Minguk, the department head, what he planned to do. "You mean about the money for the child?" "That's right. I've been worried ever since Assistant Kim started selling it. At first I thought I could sell any time, but I didn't expect the profits to gradually increase so much. If I had known earlier, I would have invested myself already. Now I wonder if I should invest more. I've been thinking about money all day. Even now I'm thinking about the growth chart." Minguk calmly enjoyed his cup of coffee and replied, "I sold everything." Donggi heard that and was shocked. "What? No. But how could you sell everything like that? If you're lucky, you'll make even more." "Because I trust Assistant Kim." He frowned after hearing that. Minguk said that it takes a lot of luck to seize an opportunity, but if you're lucky, any investment will yield higher returns. However, selling a child when the price increases. From that point on, it was all about ability. So when Assistant Kim sold all the animals, I felt very confident, Assistant Kim really is an expert. Returning to Kim Sin's place, he and his friends stopped by a fast food restaurant, and the employee quickly brought them both a special burger. As soon as he took the first bite, Kim Sin exclaimed, "This is so delicious, now this is real cooking." Mungwoo spoke up. "Since coming to the US, how much have you spent already? Don't worry about money if you stay at my place." He put down the burger he was biting into. "Are you taking care of me? It's true that you only know who your real friends are in tough times. You kid, thank you." While they were having their meal, they suddenly heard someone calling their name. It turns out they were two friends of Mungwoo, the guy who called Mungwoo by the name Kan. "Hey, are you having a burger again today?" "See, I told you he was here." Kim Sin whispered softly. "Kan Sao? Yeah, in America my name is Kan. These people are," Mungwoo introduced, "Rit and Heelin. They are my friends in America." They quickly got into it. Rit mentioned, "Mungwoo, Kan, your control model this time is excellent. Thanks to you the project progressed much faster." Mungwoo smiled and replied, "Your model is also good, Kan. You must do well what I asked of you." Kim Sin had no idea what was going on, so he joined in. "A control model? I mean the self-driving software. Rit is running a small company." Rit introduced himself to you, saying he is Rit, and his company is Aura. They are developing a self-driving system to install on passenger cars. Helen also started a conversation with him. "I'm Helen. I'm running the company with Rit. We're developing ways to produce clothes and shoes from eco-friendly materials." Kim Sin wondered if the two founders faced any challenges when starting out. Of course they did. But it means a lot. We did our best to bring the idea to life. The moment of searching for ideas to the final effort, and as Rit steadily moved forward, a blinding light made him stop. Because this is another opportunity that opens up new horizons for Rit's future career, and gives us the feeling of reaching success after so much hard work. He softly praised, "Cool, this job is truly admirable." Rit glanced at Mungwoo's place and continued, "Of course those ideas, without Kan, couldn't be found anywhere. We came up with many ideas using plastic, but they were all useless. Kan turned those ideas into reality with his exceptional programming skills. He is a valuable talent that everyone needs. But eating burgers all the time is a bit strange." Mungwoo turned pale. He yelled, "Rit, do you know that burgers are the perfect food, but eating too many burgers can make you gain weight?" Their argument made Kim Sin feel a bit nostalgic. "Even when I got to America, I had already gotten used to these friends. It already feels so meaningful to be in America." That night he was taken home by Mungwoo. "Welcome to my house." Kim Sin walked around and assessed, "Cleaner than I thought. How much is the rent? More than $3,000 a month, so that's about 4 million won, right?" Mungwoo opened the fridge and took out a few cans of barley smoothies. "The price in the US is a bit high, and in Sitco, it's even more expensive." Then he threw him a can, leaving him stunned for a moment, wondering why he was suddenly drinking beer. He said, "After eating, you should rinse your mouth, and I'm also curious about your drinking capacity. But you didn't come to America just to have fun, did you?" Kim Sin looked at Mungwoo for a long time. A few minutes later, empty beer cans were scattered across the table, with a few tasty snacks still around. Mungwoo laughed happily and said, "I told you, you have feelings for Chaekwon, don't you?" He replied, "But at that time she didn't know." "If she knew, would she be married now?" "You were infatuated with her for a whole year, weren't you?" "If it were me, I would have given up after just one day. Anyway, you're financially independent now. There are plenty of wealthy people in the US who made their fortune from stocks." Mungwoo added that most of the people passionate about it are here. Many of them play the stock market hoping to hit that jackpot. Kim Sin asked if Mungwoo could create one. "Easy," he said. "I'll make one for you." Kim Sin thought about a few things. "Investing in children is something I have never considered. If I invest in buy it, will there definitely be a profit in the future?" "Just invest then." "As planned," he spoke up. "Mungwoo, can I ask you something? What's going on?" Recalling the morning meeting with Rit and Heelin, he asked again, how to start a company. He sat there holding a beer can in his hand. "Mungwoo, can I ask you something? How to start a company?" After receiving that question, Kim Sin immediately replied, "I'm not drunk, I'm serious here." Mungwoo wondered why suddenly asking about the company, and he responded, "Looking at Crit and Lena, I got curious. I don't know how serious you are, but in my opinion, there are 3 key factors to starting a business. First, you need to have a lot of money. The second is the idea to come up with the safest and most appropriate options. And third, most importantly, is the capability of the leader. Even with capital and ideas, if the leader lacks the ability to utilize them, it's all in vain." He muttered in his head the words of the boy, "Even with ability, lacking capital would still lead to failure." Indeed, money alone is not enough. The leader must possess all of the above qualities, so what abilities do they need to have? In terms of expertise, good ideas, or the ability to motivate, there seems to be something even more important. "You keep explaining to me anyway, Running a company isn't easy. If there's a lot of money, it's better to invest. He called out again. Mungu, what is it this time? How do you invest in a company? He asked while popping open a beer can and listening for the answer from him. At a fast food shop on the street, Trit sat in the chair with his arms crossed, a plate of fast food in front of him. So you want to invest in AURA? He nodded and confirmed. That's right. Being Khan's friend, I can trust you, but I didn't expect to discuss this at a burger joint. Khan said you'd prefer this place over a stiff cafe, right? And I also looked into Aura, his hand rolling the paper. The growth of Aura is much faster compared to other companies, and their technology is recognized to the point of receiving investment offers from major Korean conglomerates. If they find a good partner, I think Aura can develop even further, don't you think? Chris adjusted his glasses and replied, Unfortunately, we are in the process of discussing investment with another company, even if we don't receive any further investments. Are you hesitating? Getting that question hit a nerve, so he was a bit surprised. He kept trying to persuade, I heard that the company is asking for more shares while reducing the investment amount, and they are also putting forward unfavorable terms for Aura. Chris doesn't know how he found out about this. He simply said softly, I don't want to do business that way. I want to become a partner of Aura. When Chris heard you mention $500,000 for 10% equity, which is about 600 million won, he felt it was a considerable amount. That is the investment condition I, as a partner, proposed to Aura. The eyes of Kurit seemed very pensive at that moment. He's always confident he can win over the person in front of him. First, I will review the file. After carefully thinking it over, he finally made a decision. Mungu at that moment was eating heartily, paying no attention to their conversation. Chris picked up the file, trying to read it carefully, stroking his chin thoughtfully. Then he asked, $700,000 for 10% of the shares? How about this condition? Mungu finally spoke up. It seems like you're pushing the price too hard. At first, he planned $400,000 for 10%. Then he reminded Mungu, stay quiet. We are talking about important business here. That's why I have to clarify. I was the one who introduced Aura to Kim Shin. Come on, give $900,000 for 20%. And then he panicked and asked, what? I know your situation well. You're short on capital because the new technology is developing, while the company you're looking to invest in is trying to swallow Aura. And if they partner with that company, they'll aim for management rights over Aura, which you're worried about too, right? But Kim Sin was different. He pointed towards him. He will take a small share, but that's just a fair deal for the investment. He has no intention of interfering in the company's operations by using the shares as a weapon. As an investor, he only hopes for the growth of Aura. Think carefully, Crit. Khan is playing mind games with him. Choose a major conglomerate and eat a cheeseburger. Choose my friend and eat a large burger. If you choose wisely, you'll gain many benefits. Chris at this moment doesn't know how to choose to his advantage. Suddenly he burst out laughing. If you say so, then I have no other choice. Khan's best friend, now our business partner, reached out to Kim Sin, signaling a desire to compromise. All right, as an investor, I expect the company's growth. Outside people are busy with their work, and the crowd is bustling back and forth. It was a great start, even though he didn't know if the investment would succeed, but it was still an experience, he thought silently as he held the file in his hand. All thanks to Mungu. At first I just wanted to gather knowledge, but Mungu has a wider network than I thought, and understands the internal workings of companies. Without him, I wouldn't have had this opportunity. Gotta find a way to repay him soon, Mungu said. You just turned around when he said something loving. What are you talking about? You were a bit surprised when he spoke like that. Can you introduce a few more companies? I want to invest a bit more since I've already started, Mungu asked curiously. Didn't you come to the US to relax? Just realized I should be at work right now. At the company there was a well-known inquiry. Is everyone still doing okay? What happened? Aura rejected our investment proposal. She's the director Kyung. Yes, it seems like they recently sold shares to a new investor. What was the reason for their refusal? They said they wanted to eat a bojio instead of a bojio fo mai. She thought to herself, what the heck is this huge burger? And Takway also refused to invest, even they did? So who exactly is the buyer? They say it's an individual, even the person who invested in Aura, which gave her a major headache. An individual investing in a startup? Unless they're extremely passionate about the industry, it's highly unlikely. Anyway, we lost 2 companies we were targeting. This person is no ordinary one. She gripped the edge of the chair, deep in thought. I'll give you time to learn more about that person. We need to secure the shares he's holding. Yes, I understand. I thought I knew all the information in this industry, but turns out there's still someone I haven't heard of. I will definitely find you. Her face was filled with determination. The current assets of Kim Sin amount to 1,190 billion won. The people are only 450 years old. 44th floor apartment, what's all the noise about? 32nd floor apartment here requesting rescue, what's going on? The Great Depression is here, run quickly. We have to cut our losses. This time we're doomed. Please save me. What should I do now, Mr. Dailai? Dropped by 60%, you told me to trust the photo. Take responsibility. Everyone is panicking right now, making Sanguk tremble in fear. So he shouted, "It's only been a week and I've already lost 200 million won. Half of my fortune is gone." Chaekwon stood from afar, frowning. She is furious about the company's severe shortage. Sanguk was panting heavily, sweat pouring down his face. What should he do now? Who told you to believe me? You knew the risks but still invested, and now he's blaming everyone. I tried pressing the knife against your throat, forcing you to comply, truly at a loss for words. Dun-Ki grabbed his collar and said, "You still have the nerve to say that?" The other guy was just as aggressive. "What, you want to fight? Go ahead so I can get compensation." "Calm down." "Dun-Ki!" someone shouted, worried about a brawl breaking out. "Someone stop Dun-Ki!" In the end, stubbornly refusing to sell has led to this disaster. He looked up at the sky in disappointment. It should have been sold along with Cindy back then, at least to recover the capital. The severe deficit is rapidly increasing while capital is becoming even more scarce. He was genuinely surprised when something like that happened. Closing his eyes and thinking for a long time, this was truly a difficult choice for him. Finally, he decided to sell, or else those people would end up fighting and injuring each other. Sang-Ki sighed. This was probably the best choice. What has Kim Sin been up to lately? He was sitting against the corner of the wall, holding a gun in his hand. In a peaceful village on the mountain range, the house is made mostly of wood and bamboo. Kim Sin is holding a gun, shooting and breaking the wall. Let Mengwu know that this signal will be very disadvantageous. He turned around and saw him face down on the floor, so he ordered, "Let's retreat and go somewhere else." Suddenly he looked up. "Sorry, we were fooled." As soon as he finished speaking, he felt as if a current ran through his body. Someone is shooting at your back, and all you can do is call out his name. You tried calling his name, but he lay motionless with no response. That guy was still standing behind him, hand reaching into his jacket pocket as if to pull something out. He felt extremely worried about both their safety. It turned out to be a frying pan, which he was slowly pulling out with a mysterious air. Kim Sin was feeling nervous at that moment. Holding the pan in his hand, he revealed one eye. Mengwu was extremely furious. "Just kill us already. Stop humiliating us. Kill us quickly." In the end, both of them sacrificed themselves in the game. "It's normal. Just stop eating fried chicken for a while and you'll be fine." He sat in front of the computer screen, pulling his hair, losing again because of dirty play. You turned to him and said, "Kim Shin, let's get revenge. Create another room." He agreed. "Hurry up and join. After investing in the startup Mengwu, it has helped me a lot. To respond, I want to give him a house." But contrary to my feelings, Mengwu seemed very upset, saying he wouldn't help me for this reason. And he firmly refused, but the latest audio system model, types of gem machines, and the latest gem titles. Seeing the room that holds every man's dreams, he agreed to move in, but only on the condition that we share a room. So he turned to ask, "Mengwu, I'm planning to go backpacking for a while." He asked curiously, taking a long break. He replied, "I've already asked the department head for more time off." "Backpacking must be fun," you asked, but your eyes were still glued to the computer. Suddenly an idea flashed through his mind. "Kim Sin, can I ask you for a favor?" He turned to me excitedly and said, "Join me." Similarly, you looked at him with a joyful gaze. On the trip with Kim Sin, his hands trembling as he held his bag, he sat timidly like a shy girl. There is a girl sleeping on his shoulder. Strange. How did it end up like this? I feel extremely terrified. Clearly it was just an ordinary backpacking trip yet. The girl Iori slept soundly on his shoulder. You remember the time he asked for a favor, Kim Sin? "Would you mind if a friend of mine joined this backpacking trip?" You asked, "Who is it?" Ioli is the younger sister of a close colleague at my company. The colleague's younger sister, sure, I agree. You happily said, "So you agree, right?" He saw how hasty you were and replied, "Wait, at least tell me what she's like." You simply answered, "Just graduated college, 23 years old, don't worry." "All right, see you then." Mengwu waved goodbye before I could finish speaking. He sat in the car, lost in thought. "Kim Sin, wake up, we've arrived. This place is beautiful, with cool breezes and scenery that's perfect for relaxation." Ioli's hair fluttered in the wind, its scent drawing everyone's gaze. Two people were walking together. She turned to him and asked, "Kim Sin, have you ever been here?" "It's my first time. What about you?" "This is my first time too. I'm really looking forward to the upcoming trip." Her face looks very happy to be going out. "Where should we go first? Have you made any plans yet?" He thought to himself. It seems like she doesn't really care about this, does she? Right now, he has a lot of questions in his head, like how could she not care about backpacking with a strange guy? Maybe it's because he's not used to American culture, or because of the 8-year age gap, so she sees him as just some uncle. Maybe I'm just overthinking it. He kept daydreaming and didn't notice her hand waving in front of his face. "Kim-sin, are you listening to me?" "You weren't listening to me at all," she angrily scolded. "Sorry, what did you just say?" "If you don't have any plans yet, we can follow the schedule I've already laid out. I've planned this backpacking trip." "Well, that's great, you seem happy. Where should we go first?" Then he replied, "We can go anywhere." She took him with her to take pictures. "Teach me how to pose beautifully. The scenery here is so beautiful that just lifting the camera gives you a perfect shot." Ioli smiled brightly as if there were no distance between her and him. She brought him into the frame with her. Both posed for the camera. The waves here gently lap against the shore, while the bustling crowd passes by, chatting animatedly. "Raise a glass to our trip, both of us enjoying a delicious meal as the evening sets in. Thank you for following the plan with me today. Are you tired?" "Not at all. I'm also very happy. Indeed, you made me feel, if I were alone, I would probably just wander around the hotel, but thanks to you, I got to explore more places." He sends her his most sincere thanks. "Why did you travel to the US? You wanted to experience different cultures because you've been buried in work all this time. Why did Aorai think about going backpacking?" "Today, looking at you, I feel like this isn't an idea that just popped up overnight." She raised her glass to her lips and replied, "I want to make memories before starting work. Thanks to hard work, I was accepted to work in the city. When I start, I will be very busy, so I want to take advantage of my free time to go out." He was incredibly surprised, truly admirable. "My goal is to one day run a business that makes a lot of money, creating a new legend, so we must raise our glasses to celebrate once again. Because Aoli will write a legend, and for the future of us, the person will search for and realize their dream." Aoli sat across, deeply moved by him. "Hopefully one day you will get to collaborate with Aoli, and by then, I hope Kim-sin will become a successful entrepreneur." At the hotel in this city, both he and she stood bewildered in front of the room. It seems like we're the only ones in the room, and in hotels, there's not always someone around. But she sat her butt down on the mattress. "There are only the two of us, isn't that what Kim-sin likes?" Her eyes looked very mysterious. He felt a bit wary of this remark. Looking at her figure, it's just as hot as any beauty out there. He cleared his throat. "Aoli, don't joke like that, it's not funny. I was just teasing you a little because Kim-sin seemed too worried." The room lights were already off. She looked down and wished him a good night. He responded kindly, "Aoli, sleep well." He pretended to close his eyes to see if she had fallen asleep. The earlier situation had terrified him. "Tim wants to jump out now. How can she joke like that without even a change in her expression, making me try to stay calm, which is so exhausting. Even though I feel a little flutter, I absolutely must not cross the line. If I do something reckless, Mungu will get hurt. I have to be more careful." Late night at the beach party. Everyone is having fun in the water, each wearing a beautiful outfit. People sat happily chatting. Suddenly they turned around sharply upon hearing the seductive voice. She is calling his name with such a soft voice. Everyone was surprised by the scene unfolding before them. She took off the towel, revealing the outfit she was wearing, which hugged her body and showed off her sizzling curves. Her feet moved closer to him, then she bent down. "Let's go swimming." A moment later at the pool, Ioli's pale legs kicked the water, and the strong push immediately sent her diving deep into the lake. Kim-sin was sitting by the lakeside, his legs swinging over the water, when suddenly a dark figure appeared. Right after that, Aoli emerged from the water. She pushed her hands against the edge of the pool to lift herself up, shook her head to get the water out of her hair, and let out a sigh. Then turning to Kim-sin, he asked, "Aren't you going to swim?" Kim-sin replied, "I'm not very good at swimming, just dipping my feet like this is satisfying enough." Aoli smiled, her face thoughtful, unsure of what idea had popped into her head. Suddenly she jumped off the wall, grabbed Kim-sin's hand and offered, "Let me teach you how to swim." Kim-sin was caught off guard by the situation, and seeing this, Aoli added, "It's okay, I'll hold you tight." Kim-sin, sweating profusely, awkwardly said, "No, that's not what I meant." Then he wondered, what should I do now? Looking at Aoli's face, he kept thinking, if this goes on, he'll definitely get swept away by Aoli. No matter how open American culture is, this isn't okay. For Aoli, he has to maintain a proper distance. Thinking for a moment, Kim-sin said, "Aoli, sorry, but I have to head back to the hotel first." Just then, a voice suddenly rang out in surprise. "Is there really someone this beautiful?" In the distance, 3 young men were approaching. The one in the blue shirt said, "Look over there. I heard there's a pretty girl around here." The young man in the blue shirt didn't care. He called out, "Hey, white-skinned girl, leave that yellow-skinned guy and hang out with us." The guy in the black shirt nudged him with his elbow and said, "Idiot, you're Asian too." The guy in the orange shirt stayed silent. Kim-sin looked at the 3 young men, puzzled and silently wondering, what's this? Are they trying to flirt with Aoli? Suddenly he glanced at the young man in the orange shirt, noticed something, and saw him suddenly wink. Kim Sin immediately panicked, stammering to himself, I'm considered yellow-skinned too? No matter what he thought, the three young men had already moved closer to Aoli. The one in the blue shirt said, anyway girl, hang out with us. The one in the black shirt tried to be gallant, there's an amazing cocktail bar over there. Aoli crossed his arms over his chest, his face clearly showing displeasure. Sorry, but I have to decline. I already have a companion. The young man in the blue shirt patted his head, turned around and asked, so I got rejected, huh? The young man in the black shirt replied casually, it happens all the time, nothing to be surprised about. Iori snapped, get out before I call someone over. Hearing that, the young man in black immediately frowned, his cheeks turning red, probably out of embarrassment. He suddenly reached out his hand and said, come on. At least let us get to know each other a little. His arm had only extended halfway when it was caught by another hand. Kim Sin stood in front of Aoli, his face cold as he issued a warning, never touch without someone's consent. Iori was astonished, her mouth slightly open. In front of her, Kim Sin's back suddenly seemed larger, but at this moment, Kim Sin was extremely embarrassed. Thinking I intervened because I sensed danger, now what do I do? Staring at the three young men before him, Kim Sin was certain he couldn't stop them alone. The young man in black squeezed his wrist and said, damn it, these hands aren't for men to hold. The young man in orange blushed and muttered, really envious. Kim Sin glanced back and thought to himself, first, I need to get Aoli out of here. Just as he was considering his next move, Aoli suddenly said, wait for me a moment. As soon as she finished speaking, she stepped forward, leaving Kim Sin in shock as he called out, Aoli. Aoli crossed her arms and said, this is the last time I'll say it. Apologize now and quietly leave, and nothing will happen. The young man in black smirked and asked, we didn't do anything wrong, why should we apologize? The young man in blue immediately chimed in, yeah, it's just flirting. Aoli smiled and asked, is that so? She asked, what do you think? As soon as she finished speaking, a large hand grabbed the shoulder of the young man in black. Aoli continued, security officer. After hearing that, the young man in black slowly turned around and immediately saw a guy with a bright smile standing behind him. The security guard growled, sir, clearly you were warned last time for harassment, right? I said. If you repeat the offense, you'll be banned. The faces of the guy in the blue shirt and the guy in the black shirt turned pale. Only the guy in the orange shirt looked shy like a girl being watched. In front of them stood three tall, muscular men. One of the brown-haired men said, please follow me. The matter ended like that. That evening, in a bar, Kim Sin and Aoli held cocktails in their hands and gently clinked glasses. After taking a sip, Aoli praised, it's really good here. Kim Sin added, that's right, this is the first time I've had such delicious wine. The bartender, hearing their compliments, quietly smiled and continued mixing cocktails. Aoli recalled and said, at first when I heard about compensation for damages, I didn't think much of it, but it seems like I've come to the right place. Kim Sin said, in Korea, people call this turning misfortune into blessing. Aoli stammered for a while but couldn't speak, then disappointedly said, too hard to pronounce. Kim Sin gave a wry smile. The pronunciation is indeed a bit tough. Aoli paused for a moment, then softly called, Sin. After a pause, she continued to ask, what kind of person is Sin? Kim Sin wondered, what do you mean by what kind of person? Aoli said, like their living environment. Personality, something like that. Kim Sin pondered for a long time. After a moment of hesitation, he explained that his mother passed away early, so he only lived with his father. His father was addicted to gambling, which left the family in poverty. Then, in his mid-20s, his father died, and he began living on his own. Kim Sin continued. Then he married a woman he met at work. Empty glasses lined the table, and the atmosphere sank into a moment of silence. Aoli angrily said, she is a bad person. Kim Sin was surprised. Aoli continued, no, how could there be someone like that? She's not human. She's a witch. Then she sighed. Living in a marriage like that for an entire year, Sin really was an extraordinary person. Hearing those words, Kim Sin thought to himself, even though I didn't want to talk about this, it does make me feel a little more relieved. Aoli said, anyway, I understand why your ex-wife married you. She closed her eyes and continued, you always listen to others, respect them, and take care of them in every little detail. What woman wouldn't fall for you? As she said that, she turned to ask, what do you think? Kim Sin stayed silent, his face clearly showing discomfort. After a while he stammered, it's getting dark, let's go home. Aoli reluctantly replied, all right. Returning to the hotel, Kim Sin lay on the bed and let out a sigh of relief. Then, in a soft voice, finally managed to calm down. The image of Aoli suddenly appeared in his mind, and Kim Sin thought to himself, in the end, He had been swept away by Aoli halfway through. He should have been more alert. Pick up the phone, he taps on an app, changes his voice, and asks for a market update for a moment. The app just opened, and messages full of complaints appeared. Giving up on crypto, might as well leave it for the kids to inherit, being forced to sell off. Not a single coin hasn't dropped in value. I missed the exchange on the 10th floor. Isn't crypto basically just gambling? What kind of talk is that? After thinking for a bit, Kim Sin suddenly said, after the X crash, all other coins dropped too, most have fallen by over 90%. After thinking for a moment, he realized that if he hadn't sold at that time, he would have suffered heavy losses by now. Just then, a knock sounded from the door. Kim Sin hesitantly asked, "Who is it?" From outside came the voice of Aoli. "It's me, Aoli." Hearing her voice, Kim Sin wondered what could be happening at this hour, but said aloud, "Just a moment, I'll be right out." After speaking, he immediately stepped forward to open the door. As the door opened, the figure of Aoli appeared. She had changed out of her swimsuit and put on a white nightgown. Kim Sin's eyes were fixed on Aoli's chest, then moved down to her hips. With just a glance, Kim Sin felt like thunder in a clear sky. He stammered, "Aoli, this is..." Kim Sin hadn't finished speaking when a finger pressed against his lips, silencing him. Aoli entered the room, pressing his body against Kim Sin. Then he raised his hand to his mouth to signal silence. The scene shifted, and the images of 3 security men appeared, all flaunting their massive muscles. Kim Sin's current state was at an all-time high, over the top at 10,000%. The view outside the window is bright and radiant. Aoli was curious about the night view of the sleepless city Las Vegas, wondering what the night view of Las Vegas would look like in person. Kim Sin faced her and replied, "Its scene was much more beautiful than imagined." Aoli began to wonder. "Better than Santa Monica Beach?" he gently countered. "They're different. If Santa Monica has natural beauty, Las Vegas shows off the glitz of a city." Aoli agreed, "You're right." However, she thought of something new to say, but it was just talking like this. "Is it really okay? You've opened your heart." At that moment, a lullaby-like epic was playing in Kim Sin's mind. Hearing her words, he replied helplessly, "It's fine, even if it's just talking. Tonight was still great." Aoli still felt a bit regretful, though she said so. She directly asked the question, "May I ask the reason?" Kim Sin fell into an unspeakable silence. His hand gripped the bedsheet as he answered, because he wasn't confident he could take responsibility. Kim Sin finally chose to explain honestly that after divorcing his wife, he no longer wanted to love anyone, but he also didn't want to act irresponsibly just for a bit of pleasure. Especially with Aoli, he expressed. Hearing his heartfelt words, her cheeks blushed. Aoli gave up, buried his face in the pillow and said, "What are you afraid of?" Kim Sin awkwardly replied, "I'm sorry." She gently lifted herself up and asked for another request. "Then how about tonight you talk with me all night? Would that be okay?" Kim San agreed immediately. "Got it." A string of questions between him and Aoli began. He asked, "What was the most memorable thing about this trip?" She replied. Aoli's slender finger gently poked his soft cheek, and she sighed in boredom. "You fell asleep so fast." Bao said we would talk all night, but Kim San seems to be dreaming with sweat-drenched cheeks. Looking at this captivating scene, Aoli was unknowingly mesmerized. In the end, she lay content, resting peacefully in the arms of Kim San. Aoli's hand gently rested on Kim San's chest with a hint of regret, though slightly reluctant. "This time I'll stop here." She accepts the reality as it is. At the airport, many passengers are rushing around. "It's time to say goodbye," Aoli began. "Thank you for taking me to New York," Kim San politely responded. "It's nothing. Thanks to you, I also got to visit many famous landmarks in New York." She asked, "Are you flying back to Korea right away?" Kim San confirmed, "Flying from here is faster than from San Francisco." Kim San said his final goodbye, so Aoli, farewell to you. She quickly called back, "Sin, you reacted." Kim Sin was stunned, his eyes wide open in shock. It turned out that Aoli rushed straight into his arms, holding him tight. Aoli closed her eyes, savoring this romantic moment. The trip with him was delightful. The two bodies were close, as if sharing warmth. She reminded him, "When you return to Korea, remember to contact me." Kim Sin tried to pull his arm away, but after a moment he stopped, his clenched hand trembling. Kim Sin accepted the request. He was also very happy. He would get in touch once back in Korea, and just like that, the plane took off. Inside the cabin was the voice of the flight attendant. "Dear passengers, our flight to Incheon Airport will soon take off. We will do our best to ensure you have a safe and comfortable journey." Kim Sin sat up straight, glancing outside, thinking to himself, the long trip to the U.S. has finally come to an end. I remember the amazing people I met. Coming to the U.S., I encountered incredibly valuable individuals, from Chris and Lena, the heads of startups, to Aoli, a girl full of dreams. People I would never have met if I had stayed in Korea. Kim Sin also learned a lot about the issue of wealth, he reported, and the industry and culture thriving in every city is truly astonishing. Such development in the US is probably partly due to the gathering of people from different places, but its origin definitely lies in vast capital. Beneath the airplane window, the city gradually comes into view. He remains lost in his own world, feeling the pulse of the grand economy. My greed awakens. I want to work harder, achieve something. Kim Sin clenched his fist with determination more than ever. I want to make a lot of money. This is the biggest dream on his mind. Kim Sin pondered. I used to wonder why wealthy conglomerate chairmen still worked in their old age, but now that I've become rich, I think I understand. Making money is the most exciting thing. Airplanes crisscrossed the sky. Kim Sin landed safely, suddenly hearing a call, Assistant Kim. The person at the airport holding the sign responded, It's me. Kim Sin shook hands and greeted, Don Depp, did you go through all that trouble to pick me up? He smiled, saying, Others might not, but as an assistant, I had to come pick you up. Don Depp chuckled and revealed, It's not just me coming. Kim Sin looked bewildered. Who else? A woman slowly stepped forward. It's the voice of Sue, the assistant. Sue seriously asked, It's been a long time since I last saw you. Her face blushed as she asked, How was the trip? Kim Sin's eyes lit up, calling out Sue. He left Don Depp behind and walked up to Sue, asking, How can you be out during work hours? She reassured him, It's okay, I'm just on a business trip nearby. After some time, the three decided to leave. Don Depp suggested, Let's go have lunch, assistant. Kim Sin eagerly responded, Sure, what do you want to eat? Don Depp smiled. Anything the assistant invites us to will be delicious, and he suggested, Let's go to the Japanese restaurant in the nearby hotel. Don Depp glanced over at Kim Sin. Amazing as always, Assistant Kim. Sue, on the other hand, was quite worried. That's a 5-star hotel, she said. Kim Sin, ever generous. Suddenly the screen lit up with a message. It was from Han Chae-guan, assessing Sue's current status, feeling 1000% thrilled. Under the shimmering city lights at night, Kim Sin breathed a sigh of relief, finally home. The scenery in the US is beautiful, but the view from my own home is still the best. Before packing, check your messages. Many people texted him, like Meng Yu checking in, How's life in America, come visit next time. There is also a message from Eoli, I just finished interviewing DB Mogan, will bring good news soon, see you later. Additionally, there are some messages from a few other people. But what interested him the most was that Eoli said, See you later. Eoli probably meant they'd meet again when he returned to the US. Suddenly, Kim Sin was astonished when he saw a message from Han Chae-guan. She stood in front of a fountain monument speaking coldly. I heard you went on a trip to the US. Even though you left without saying a word, which made me a bit sad, I hope you had a great time. Being alone, does it feel lonely? I really miss you today. Now that we're apart, I realize my feelings for you. I still love you. After reading, Kim Sin couldn't help but feel shocked. Are you crazy? What is she thinking? Messages keep coming in, Kim Sin. Recently, there's been a rumor at the company that you lost all your money investing in coin. No way, it's probably just nonsense. Why aren't you answering? Could it be true? Then she started crying. Suddenly, Chae-guan changed his tone and cursed him, calling him an idiot. I knew it. Your mind is just like that. The roots never change. You now have a fresh start. From now on at the company, you should be careful, she warned. Kim Sin was both scared and confused at that moment. He thought to himself, what is she talking about? Then immediately blocked Chae-guan's messages. At this moment, he feels that he made the right decision. Divorce was indeed the wisest choice. The next morning, Kim Sin returned to the company. He happily carried the gifts and said, Hey everyone, long time no see. Thanks to you all, I had an amazing vacation. I bought a few gifts. But strangely, none of them were happy. Instead, they just focused on their own work. He wondered, why is the atmosphere so tense? A few other familiar employees were surprised when they saw him again. Agent Kim. Someone asked, Did you have a good vacation? Kim Sin replied, Yes, thanks to everyone. How's everyone doing? They each answered, Of course, thanks to your advice. We made a successful investment. That's right, following your suggestion to pull out was definitely a wise decision. Now he understood why some people didn't care about him. It was because of cryptocurrency. At that time, someone followed my advice and sold off. But some people listened to Sanguk and kept it. After that, the price of coin dropped by 95%, surely causing significant losses. Suddenly, there was a voice calling, Hey, Agent Kim, employees getting priority feels a bit unfair, doesn't it? Where's our gift? Kim Sin exclaimed in surprise. Manager Minguch, Manager Dongi, of course, I've already prepared. On the other hand, in meeting room number 2, when the gifts were opened, they were incredibly precious and expensive watches, authentic luxury brands. This made the two department heads not only surprised but also so shocked that they froze. At this moment, Manager Dongi stammered, "Agent Kim, could this be?" He immediately replied, "Yes, this is a Rolex. Since I first joined the company, I have received a lot of help from both of you. So I want to give you both a truly memorable gift." Head of Department Minguk was still in such shock that he couldn't utter a word. His eyes opened wide, then shut tightly. Even Department Head Dongi was the same, as if the two of them had somehow offended him. Finally, someone spoke up, "Sorry, Kim. Thank you for your kindness, but we can't accept it." "I'm sorry. I can only accept your good intentions." Kim Sin quickly added, "If you're worried about the price, don't be. Though it's a bit awkward to say it myself, for me, this isn't a large sum of money." Dongi lowered his head and said, "Really, we heard about it." He was startled. "What? I heard I lost all my investment money. This is the first time I've heard of it." Both of them weren't surprised. That guy had lied like that before. Then he asked, "So who tricked you? Who told you that?" Then the two of them began to tell the story. Right after that, Kim Sin went up to the company's rooftop. Holding a cup of coffee and deep in thought, suddenly someone walked in and called out, "Hey, Kim's agency. I heard you're traveling to the US. Traveling abroad like that really shows you're from a wealthy family. But lately there's been some strange rumors. Agent Kim, how are things lately?" Kim Sin smiled softly and replied, "Long time no see, Agent Sang-guk. These past few days, other employees have been talking nonstop. Kim Sin, you know how to drive, right? You don't? I can't believe at your age you still don't have a driver's license. Yesterday I played golf with some doctors. Oh, sorry. I guess Kim Sin has never played golf before, so you wouldn't know. Assistant Kim, please buy a decent suit. Looking at you, people might think all ACO employees are dirt poor. See him again." Kim Sin thought to himself, "Sang-guk, he came to verify the rumor he spread himself. It's just like him, still the same nature. Always looking down on others if they seem inferior. Someone who is ready to hurt others just to satisfy their own ego. For the past 4 years he has caused me so much pain. I know he wasn't happy when I became rich, but I didn't expect him to cling this persistently." Seeing Kim Sin deep in thought, the man asked, "Hey, Assistant Kim, why are you so wary of me? I was really worried about you, so I just wanted to check in. We're colleagues after all. Feel free to share your thoughts." Kim Sin glanced at the hand he placed on his shoulder. Suddenly he spoke in a low voice, "Fine. You really want to know my story that much? All right, if you want, I'll tell you. It's perfect timing. I also want to get something off my chest. But you must promise that only you know about this," Sang-guk replied happily. "Of course, I won't tell anyone. Actually, I made nearly 10 billion won from cryptocurrency, but now I have less than 10 million won left." He immediately thought of the image, a holy grail filled with poison, then suddenly burst into laughter. "You must have had a hard time, thank you for trusting me. You know I'm great at keeping secrets, right?" Kim Sin smiled to himself. "I know very well, Assistant Na, so I'll count on you." Then he went on to tell everyone in the company, in the band tray department. They all got flustered. "What? Assistant Kim went bankrupt?" "Really, he made 10 billion won, but now he has less than 10 million won, Sang-guk corrected. They couldn't help but gossip. "Oh my, I thought he went on vacation in the US and struck it big or something, so it turns out the story about him planning to sell the IT lop was a lie?" But then again, who would sell that thing? And Kim's assistant doesn't seem like the type to lie. How disappointing. At this moment Sang-guk couldn't hold back the joy and burst into loud laughter. "That's right. How could Kim Sin be better than me? Insects have to eat pine needles. You will always be beneath me for the rest of your life, Kim Sin. Next time I meet that guy, I don't know what to do anymore," he thought. Suddenly Chief Minguk walked in. Everyone seemed— "I heard there's a big surprise party at the company tonight. I wonder if anyone wants to attend," Sang-guk questioned. "A party." Then he said with a bored look, "Enough? It's probably pork belly again. I'm about to turn into a pig myself." "I heard it's a premium beef restaurant in Gangnam," Minguk said, leaving him surprised. "Beef. And then, as planned, tonight they have a party at an upscale restaurant. The atmosphere here is truly top-notch. Everything is arranged with elegance and visual appeal." Everyone walked in, immediately marveling at the sparkling beauty here. A friendly waiter said, "Feel free to sit wherever you're comfortable." They started murmuring again. "This is an expensive restaurant. Are we really going to eat here? Over 150,000 won per meal. I've never been to such a fancy place in my life," someone said excitedly. At this moment Sang-guk felt a bit doubtful, thinking to himself, "This place is only for the hospital director. Why are they holding a staff party here? It's my first time coming here." Then he wondered, will the director come? Hearing the footsteps continue approaching, Sang-guk turned to look and was extremely surprised. Kim Sin, that guy came too. He cursed in his head thinking, "That bastard, just because he's close with the department heads, he thinks he can act all high and mighty. Just in time, today I need to teach him a lesson." Suddenly, Kim Sin spoke up, "Hello everyone. Thank you all for coming to the party I hosted. Hearing this, everyone gasped in shock. I just got back from vacation and wanted to give everyone a gift, but I felt so guilty. So I decided to throw a small party. Feel free to enjoy. When the plates of premium meat were served, everyone couldn't help but marvel. Sang-guk was completely confused. He couldn't believe this was true. Did Kim Sin really pay for all of this? It must have cost at least 10 million won. What on earth is going on? The staff were having a lively discussion. Hey, it seems like the news about Assistant Kim going bankrupt was fake, right? Yeah, if he were bankrupt he would never throw a party here. Maybe Na misheard. He was startled when he heard his name, jumped up and shouted, No, no way, that Kim Sin said he would only tell me. At that moment, another person interrupted, mocking him, Assistant Kim, who had always been quiet and humble. He couldn't help but panic. Department head Dong-gi. The department head continued, Assistant Na as well. Everyone suffered heavy losses this time. How could he just say it outright? He's definitely trying to comfort you. But suddenly Dong-gi sternly scolded, Assistant Na, the story Assistant Kim told you, why did you spread it everywhere? He stammered in response, No, that's not. At that moment Kim Sin spoke up, Assistant Na, this beef dish probably isn't to your taste, right? If it were the old me, I would definitely ignore Sang-guk's gossip. No, I have to say I had no choice but to let it go, because those words were all true. But now, I hope you enjoy your meal, because this party is held especially for you, Kim Sin said mockingly, sarcastically towards him. Now, you can be sure that I won't let myself be trampled on anymore.